Hello! I believe I'm live. At last. Oh, do you know what it did to me tonight, Mike?
What did it do to you tonight?
It's put a button over the start button, which means every time I try and press the start button, it presses the other button. And that button's still there. Anyway, I managed to find the one pixel that worked.
You are live, by the way.
Excellent.
Well, you know what it's done to me tonight?
I know. Bad words have been said.
I've been
lots of them.
I've been trying to answer somebody's question in the chat, and I've posted it 5 times, and it won't take it.
Tell me about
this
it.
Person probably
thinking
thinks I'm being ignorant.
You're not being ignorant. Right, okay. We had a question, didn't we?
We did.
The question was, let's start with this before I say hello to everybody. Right, so says he had a question, I hope that's how it's pronounced, and we've been trying to reply to it, and it's not going well. That's the short version, trust me. Oh, I can see the question now, there it is. Can you see it?
Well, the other question was posted.
Sandwiched between Hi Folks and Carol Little. Yay! Anyway, right, let's get on with it. So, the answer to the question was, why not a session about Notion? How many sessions about Notion have we done? Anyway, I am in the middle of making a Notion 101. So there will be more Notion. If you have any specifics that you would like to see in Notion, do let me know. Particularly because we do have a little bit of Notion tonight. But it's a specialist bit of Notion. Right, hello to one and all. Hello, Carol. Oh, does that mean Carol was first in, unofficially? Because YouTube can't make its mind up tonight.
Actually, Renee and Debbie S were at first in, but
and YouTube unceremoniously
YouTube obliterated their comments.
Now you're having some of my pain with YouTube. Anyway, hello to if you were in and it's gone, hello. Hello, Carol. Oh, we've got our Carols in sync. We've got our Carols. Hello, Carol Little, and hello, Carol Leather. It's Carol Leather's night tonight. Oh, we've got the what is it? The pattern thing. Oh, I have been in that many sessions. I need to count, but at the last count, I think it was about 67 sessions this week. So do forgive me if I'm all over the place. Right. Says he said, did I ever do a session about Notion? Oh, I've done lots of sessions. I would suggest starting with the Notion 2021 series. We did do a Notion 2020, but obviously things change. So Notion 2021. But if you're a beginner with Notion, then I am putting together a beginner's 101. But what we're looking at today is the advanced bit of Notion. That's not good. But let's not spoil that. Right, hello Deb, hello Debbie, who else have we got? Hello Sarah, hello Renee, hello John. Oh, so many of you. Hello Graham. How's the weather down there? It's horrific up here. Horrible. So have I got everybody? Kim's in, and Peter's in. Hello Peter. I think, and Jonathan. Almost finished work. Jonathan, I hope they're paying you extra. When I was a fee earner at the solicitors, you didn't get paid extra, but everybody else did. Hence the differentiation between fee earner. Yeah.
Or take it off like I did this afternoon.
Or take it off like you did. There you go. Right, I think I've got everybody. I think I have. If I've missed anybody, I apologise. Hello, Pete. So we've got Peter, we've got Pete, and I think I'm done possibly unless Tony's in. And I've missed Tony.
Tony's in.
There's Tony. Hey! What can I say? YouTube's playing with my mind tonight. Hello, Alex. We have a full... Oh, and Paul. I nearly missed Paul. Excellent. Right, I think I've got everybody. It has been a chaotic week. What can I say? These slides could have anything on them. Because I have no idea. It's virtually right. If there are any dots, you'll know that I missed that one.
Well,
but
if you could make United have won, that would have been good.
Well, in my reality, they might well have done. You never know what will be on the slides, do you? You never know. Right, so let's try and do some jiggery-pokery and make it work. I think we've jiggeried and we've pokered and we should be all right now. And I can see the chat. Not that well, because I've got my glasses on my head, but I've not cleaned them for about 3 weeks. Yeah, it's a bit tiny. The text is a smidgen on the tiny side. But never mind. We'll push through anyway and we'll progress. Okay, so what have we got tonight? And now I'm doing that. That's not working either. I think I might need to shut down the 97 apps that I've got open. That's all your fault, obviously.
My fault.
I've even got stupid things open, like Safari. I don't even use Safari. Why is it open? I don't know. Let's shut them down. Oh, you definitely don't want to see that, do you? That's my email. Why are you doing that? Right. Oh, and you don't want to see that either. Crying out loud. Come on, it's shutting down. It's doing a backup before it closes itself. And that's the mail that'll be coming your way on Sunday. And now that's there, I can't see a thing, and it's disappeared. Oh, come on. Give a girl a break. Oh, no, I can't see that. Oh, never mind, we're just going to go with it. I can't see a thing. It rendered me blind with this, but never mind. Okay, let's have a look at what we're doing. We are starting with mention of the Notion API. Before you get excited, don't. This has long been anticipated. 3 years in the making. You know, like an epic film. Then it comes out and it's like, oh dear, tomatoes. It'll be fabulous, but it's not fabulous yet. But we will have a look at that. There is an update to Craft, which is pretty nice. It's snazzy. We're liking it. Then we're visiting Camtasia 2021, as promised. Camtasia 2021 has morphed from being just a screen recording app into being a fully fledged video editor. And I know some of you are using it for that. And there's some new tricks and tips and tricks that will make that fantastic. Then we're looking at how to create patterns in Affinity Designer. Not just any pattern. No, it has to be a weave pattern or a woven pattern. Tricky, but I've found a fabulous way. Oh, it's all automated now. Then Mike is doing what makes a soccer great. But he'd be gentle with him. It's not been the best of weeks for him. And then we're wrapping up finally, mastering the macOS Finder with a 20% discount on an app. Can't say fairer than that, can I? So, before we get going, we broadcast in 1080p when YouTube allows us to broadcast at all. So make sure you're in 1080p. My lowest this week was 360. And I don't understand why. It was 1080 when I left it, came back 360. Just YouTube. So, cog, lower right-hand corner, go have a check. And while you're down there, if you enjoy the show, give it a like.
Mine's 720 on the Windows machine and 480 on the Mac. So if I added them together...
You still wouldn't be at 10.
No, I wouldn't, would I?
No. Leave it be, mate. Just make sure that it's correct. Right. So once you've all cogged, Saturday. Oh, it was 9 shows Saturday. We were busy on Saturday. Then, of course, there was Marooned on Saturday night. And after that, it was 8 o'clock and it went crazy. We had a great theme on Brooklands. It was movie night. Oh, some of the songs. I loved it. And my favourite from Kim, Colby Coley. Oh, I love that. So it was a good night. It was indeed a very good night. Which took us on to Sunday. I vaguely have recollections of working quite late on Saturday night, getting ready for working with images in Affinity Publisher. Ooh, which clashed with the match, didn't it? Wasn't that another one that clashed with it? Very bad, very, very bad planning on their part. So Mike was glued to it, trying to get second place, weren't you, really? Mm. It went all right. Let's just say Mike's week went downhill from there. Let's just leave it at that, shall we? Despite the fact that, yes, you guessed it, bad words were said. Because as you can see from that, Villa went ahead. But it was all right. It ended well. So then we went into 2 shows Sunday with our working with images. Once I'd done all of that, I was in need of a rest. I actually, set 5 o'clock on a Sunday, I'm like, I'm dead. But I can't be dead because I'm in book club. And book club is fabulous. It really is. But it's not something you can sleep through. Trust me on that. So yes, it was book club. We're still on how to take smart notes, but I've now got an idea. I've started drawing out how to give you guys the skinny on the book with some added glee. Which meant I had to start the week. Somebody's week started worse than Mike's week ended, and mine. It rained. Look at that face. Just look at the eye. You can see the white of her eye. That's when she's really glowering at you. And that's her snazzy new towel. It can hold 3 litres of water. And I think we took it to its limit. She was not a happy dog. The thing was, it didn't rain before her walk and it didn't rain after. But the heavens opened 5 minutes from home. And she expressed her displeasure to both of us all night, didn't she?
She did.
Even though you can't quite see, but the fur behind her ears goes all frizzy when it gets wet. So she wasn't a happy dog. Not a happy dog. Tuesday, there wasn't supposed to be a match. But it all had to be rearranged because of the one that got called off, if you remember. This one, when Mike's week started to go downhill. You see, they scored first. Well, that's not a crisis, is it? Because at the other match, it was fine. And then they got one back, and that was fine for a long time. And then Leicester won. So, yeah, more bad words were said.
Bad words were said.
They really are. After quite a dry day on Tuesday, Wednesday came. Lola was in the extension with Mike, and all of a sudden, and there's a lot of windows in the extension, and patio doors. All of a sudden, the heavens opened, and Madam decided that she'd try and hide under the blanket, and maybe Mike wouldn't notice and he'd forget the walk. When that didn't look like it was going to work, she decided she'd pretend to be asleep, but didn't get away with it with her eyes open. But she soon twigged, and there was snoring as well, wasn't there? Don't take me out, it's wet, and look at how clean I am. And she was growly, as you can see from the face. Anyway, I think you did take her out anyway, and it was fine. She was fine. She did not get wet again. She was all right. All the time this is happening, you'll remember what happened about a week ago, the United match. Well, Manchester United were determined it wasn't going to happen again. There would be no more riots. So, top was the riot. Bottom, they decided they were going to put the barricades up, literally. And up they went, all the way around the ground. So, what could possibly go wrong, given that the rearranged Liverpool match was on Thursday? United had it in hand. It was going to be fine. It was match day. That is the forecourt at Old Trafford. It used to be a road. And, if I can get my mouse pointer on there, about there, where my mouse pointer is, that's where Mike and I sat the day after we decided we would go out together, wasn't it? Oh, bless. You used to be able to park on the forecourt. You can't anymore. But as you can see, it was a ring of steel. It was a ring of steel. Nothing was going to happen. And yes, COVID restrictions are still a thing here. You just wouldn't realise it. So, how bad could it be? Well, they were doing all right until people turned up, and then it wasn't okay. It got worse and worse. They even threw those, are they smoke bombs? Whatever they are. Are they flares? Well, one got thrown, as you can see, and that wasn't really on, was it? But yeah, they had a gleeful time. And as you can see, there were more police there than supporters. Let's just say it didn't end well. And as if that wasn't bad enough, neither did the match. Poor Mike. Poor Mike. Oh, I found it quite entertaining myself. Now, the other thing was, yesterday, we got the mail. The mail that the Notion API is in public beta. We will discuss that more. But as you can see, it was quite late. They never gave a time, but it actually arrived at 8:15 in the evening. I couldn't do much with that at 8:15 in the evening. I was in a session, and then it was book club, and I had to head off into book club. It was the reading room bit that we do. Luckily, I wasn't reading, because I was... We have a saying here, don't we, that my mother used to use, I'm up the wall. Yes, I was up the wall. It was chaotic last night, it was. But I did actually get some sleep. Mike took care of the shopping delivery today. And it wasn't Wendy. Lola was bereft. And it's now Two Show Friday. So that was our week. Let us know what your week was like in the chat. Was it as chaotic as my week? Right, first things first. Let's look at the Notion API. You have probably all heard about the Notion API. It being like the Holy Grail, right? What do we actually mean by an API? Now, an API is the mechanism by which applications talk to each other. So if you think of it as Esperanto for apps, Notion needs to expose from its databases certain properties that can then be addressed by other applications. And the idea of this is that it's bidirectional. So If instead of Notion on the left, I had ZenKit on the left, ZenKit talks to Google Calendar. I have not gone into ZenKit for some considerable time because we've been using Notion for nearly 3 years. But when I left ZenKit, it was talking quite happily to my Google Calendars, and it remains doing so to this day. So when we say API, the technical term means the mechanism by which applications talk to each other. And Notion have been promising this for 3 years. Now, when you think about that, I just said ZenKit had it years ago. Many, many applications have had an API for years. 2008, Evernote. So it's taken them 3 years to put it together. I would have expected, even though it's only a beta launch, that it would at least have worked. I'll caveat that with, it can work, but it probably isn't what you think it is. The API allowing these applications to talk to each other, so you could have a form in Google that you put information in, and instead of it going to a Google spreadsheet, it goes to Notion, goes to a table. Or I'm in my email and I've got this email and I want to keep it as a record of it. So I want to forward it to Notion, just in the same way as I would forward it to Evernote. My particular use for this was, obviously we have shows and live sessions and training. And if I didn't have to update dates in Notion and my calendar separately, my life would be complete. But at the moment, I have to, if I'm changing a date, it needs to be changed in 2 places, because Notion does not talk to Google Calendar. Now, when we discuss the API, and we have done for the best part of 3 years, as you know, and it's like, oh, the API is coming, the API is coming. What I think people meant, what I think they were saying to me was, I want Notion to talk to Google Calendar. I want to be able to email messages to Notion. I want to be able to fill a form in and the data be sent to Notion. Let me know in the chat if that's what you meant. I don't think anybody had ever said to me, I would like Notion to expose certain properties to certain services and then be able to handle that and then pass that to that. No. You've got jobs to do and you probably know what it is you want to do. And in my case, it was Notion to Google Calendar. Right, let's have a look at what we've actually got. And I'm going to do this in relation to, let me get a browser up, or another instance of that browser. Oh, you've opened over there. That's nice. Right, let's bring that back on here. Right, I'm going to do it from the perspective of somebody looking at what's this Notion API and what does it do. So if I put in Notion API, no, not Notion, if I could spell, I would be dangerous. Right, Notion API. And we do have here the main link, which is this. So this is the page, it's the developer beta page, and you can sign up for early beta access to the Notion API. And as it says here, it's to get Notion pages and databases to talk to the tools that you use every day. That's the idea. You have to register, which I did, and I registered for, and I quote, early access. And I didn't get early access, I just got access with everybody else. So I wasn't able to work in hand with it and give that many examples, etc. But what this developer page is, it's code, and we have to write it in code. Interesting. That's not what I meant. Is that what you meant? Do you all want to sit down and learn some code? Or was what you expected more like you've got in services like ZenKit, where you just say link to my calendar, yep, here's my credentials, we're done? Because that's what I meant. So I guess if we're going to be very specific about language, what we want is integrations rather than an API. Now, obviously, the API is what's going to enable the integrations. And I think part of the problem with this, when you look at this, so if you signed up for it, this is what you got. You got to go here and look at this, and it's like, oh, good grief. This probably isn't what you meant. There are a few integrations that are out there already. There's also this workshop showing you how to build. But really, that's if you've got an application. It's not if you're just a user. And that, I think, is the problem with this at the moment. Over-promising and under-delivering is what I would call it. There are so many gotchas and caveats on what they've even rolled out. And to think it's taken them 3 years to get this far, it's actually quite frightening. But that's where we're at with it. Many things are broken at the moment, but they can get away with that by saying, yes, but it's a beta. And that's pretty much what they've done with it. So there isn't actually anything to see. Will I be teaching you to write code? If that's what we've got to do to make it work, I will show you that. I won't be doing that today. What I'm showing you today is what we've got so far. The only way today to hook up a Notion table with a calendar is another service. Okay, so we'll look at what we've got in here. We've got a lot of guides to it. So as Paul says, and I've just said before, that it's the developers that need all of this and not the users. But the thing is, they've been mentioning this to the users. And I think there was an expectation, rather than all these, this is how you do this and this is how you do that and this is how you code it. All right. I think there was an expectation that there would be some integrations that would just work. And when I say just work, I mean between my installation of Notion, my Notion system that I'm paying Notion for, and my Google Calendar that if I were paying Google for my calendar, I mean, most accounts are free, they would just talk to each other, and they don't. They need a third party in between them to do that. So you may have heard of some of them. Let's have a look. Let's get another one up and have a look at Zapier. Not sure if it's 2 Ps or 1. We'll find out.
I think it's 1.
There we go. This is a service that you get. I don't have an account on here, but this is a service that you get a little bit like is it IFFFT?
Yeah.
If this, then that. It enables application number 1 to talk to application number 2. The issue that most people are going to have with this is if they go that route, just a minute, don't I have to have a paid account on there? Well, to get the best out of it, yes, you do. There are 3 services at the moment that are actually working with this, but every one of them is a paid-for service. And that is what I think the problem's going to be at the moment. So let's get that one back. Does this actually tell you which of those 3? So that was one of them. Let's go back to... There is some code that you can follow if you want to, but like I'm saying, this is so manual. It's for developers only at the moment. If you're a developer, you're going to be thrilled. The rest of us, I could code if I want to, but do you know what? Life's too short. I just want to hook 2 things up talking to each other. That's all I'm interested in. But all of the information that we have there at the moment, yes, you could sit down and you could code it. So what I'll do for next week, I will get something working. Oh, joy. Can you tell how thrilled I am about having to code something? I've long since given up all of the coding stuff, but everything you need is actually there at the moment. But as I say, there's so much broken at the moment. Unless you really are a die-hard coder, I wouldn't touch it myself at the moment. So that's where you need to go, developers.notion.com, and from there you can see the documentation. You've got the full API reference, so it's a bit like instructions. So just to give you an idea of the kind of thing you would need to do, these are the things that you can do. So it can access a database, it can access a page, it works at block level, and these are all of the things that are exposed in the API for the API to talk to another application, and based on what you tell the other application, it will then update your database or your page or your block accordingly. The problem at the moment is, so if we go into let's retrieve a database. So this is your guide to coding it. This is the explanation in the middle. So most code references look like that. They give you parameters and every piece of information that you need. Then over here, they give you an example of code that's needed. And it's all of this code, which I can't see many people doing this. I can see lots of developers building things for it, but on launch day, I would have expected Notion themselves to have built a way to access calendars in Google, email in Google, and just provide something, instead of which it feels like a release that they've hyped to users that is way more useful to the developers. I think they could have got the marketing a bit better. Also, I mean, this has been promised 2 years ago, and then it'll definitely be by the end of 2020, and then it was, COVID. And now, and then the latest was by spring. And apparently they're saying this is spring, this is early summer. But that's where we're at with it. So I can't particularly today show you much because I would have had to have sat down and coded it all. But we will have a look at it, and I'm sure it will improve. Is it something to be excited about? Yes, in the long term, and that long term might only be a matter of weeks. But today, if you are not a developer, no. My advice would be leave it alone. But I will show you next week as far as I can make it work. Let's say that. As far as I can make it work. But if you want to have a look at it, do go and have a look at the beta developers site and have a read of it. If you're a developer, good luck. I wish you well. That'll be my week next week. Right, have you got any questions about API and what you would want to do with it? Has anybody got plans for it? My main plan is to have the MacBites shows table linked up with the MacBites calendar, the one that you guys subscribe to. At the moment, if we change a date of something, we have to change it in multiple places, and that's what we're trying not to do, because that way accidents lie. Other than that, I can see the benefit in having forms that send their content to databases. The reason that that's not going to happen anytime soon in terms of weeks is that half of the properties that are needed to update things aren't there. So what I mean by that is, you remember that from years ago, don't you? Mm-hmm. When the ASP thing broke. You have code and it creates a new record, but you do not have a way to edit a record. And this actually happened to Mike. Something broke in an API. And he said, I can create a new record, but what I cannot do is edit the record that's there. And guess what we needed to do? Edit the record that was there. So I, quick as a flash, said to him, just a minute, it will let you create a new record. He said, yes. I said, right, but it won't let you edit. He said, no. I said, well, why don't you just delete the record and create a new one? I said, read all of the properties in from the record that's going to be deleted into variables, delete the record and create a new record. That was genius, he said, and that's how we had to do it until it was fixed. So those are the kind of issues that are going on right at the moment. You can create a new page, you can create a new record, but I can't edit one that's already there. And there would be a downside in Notion of taking the approach of, well, I'll delete the record and I'll recreate it. Because if you delete the record, you delete the relationship between that record and all of the related tables. So let's put this on the back burner and say it's going to be a long haul. But I'm sure we'll get there in the end. The calendar integration is only one way at the moment, even if you manage to make it work. So something to look at for the future, but not necessarily right now is where I'm at with that. So let me know if you've got anything specific, and that's what I'll look at next week. In the meanwhile, let's get back to something that is actually working. And this is our craft update. Now, I've talked about craft maybe 4 times, something like that. What is craft and why should you care? Craft is a note-taking application. I'm wondering what that message is in relation to, Pete. Is this you've waited for it and it's not quite there? Because that's where we're at the moment. Craft is a note-taking application. It's beautiful. It was designed for the iPad. Now, as soon as I say that, I run away screaming, never mind you guys. But it is absolutely beautiful, and it works as equally as well on the iPad and the Mac. So that's the good thing about it. They have added more updates, particularly this time, image export and some help site stuff. So I will take you through what we have there that is new. Oh, the output stuff is amazing. Right, let's get craft. Craft is over there.
He says pretty much.
Yeah, it's not all there on day one, put it like that. Can I remind you of the link for craft? It is craft.do, as in doom.
Put it in the chat.
Craft.do. Right, I need a new page if you're going to see it, don't I? Right, let me get that up. And go into my inbox, of which there wasn't much, I don't think. We had this one, I think. This was what we were using. Okay. We had a test page. There was our test page. And we put some stuff in. There was our puzzles and there was our newsletter and stuff. Sarah says she's been looking to upgrade to Craft. It's saying the cost is $44.99 a year. And then try Pro for free. And it says $44.99 a year. If you've not had the trial before, it should give you, was it a month it gave you free?
2 weeks.
I can't remember. It could be two weeks.
I think it was 2 weeks.
There might be some vouchers about. Let me have a look for them. I just find it, for me, it fills a need. In terms of, it's what I've got my notes in for tonight. Because if I had them in Notion, and Notion was down, then I'd have a problem. That's not my problem at the moment. Right, but I've got this page here to show you one of the things that it can do, this new thing that it's doing. So starting with the improvements. They have added a new export feature. Now, the export features are only available in the Pro version. And we have looked at export before. It's just expanded it. But we did look at PDF export, and it was fabulous. So rationale being, when I say it's fabulous, what we've got in here, you've seen the page we've got. So we've got some headings, just test headings. We've got a graphic, and we've got 2 of these block things. And these are, you can do this just from text. So a new demo, all right? And you can do it in 2 different ways. You can do it from here, or you can do it via shortcuts. And I do it via a shortcut, which is Command Shift and L. And that takes me into a card style, and I can then make a card for that. So let's have it full width and a colour that's not terribly offensive. Some of them are bad. Should have a nice green one. There we go. And you've just turned just some text into a card. And a card you can then double click and get into. And you can nest these as many times as you like. And it's beautiful to work with, it is. Right, let's say we wanted some text in here. Where are we going to get some text from? There's probably a million places. I'll just put some text in. A new demo. Let's put Notion. Notion API demo. Yes, coming soon. Right, up here you've got your navigation, so you can go backwards and forwards. So we've got these 3 cards. That's all you can see. You can't see the detail inside. So in the Sudoku puzzle one, it's got the instructions. And if I go back in this one, it's got more instructions. So there's information that's not actually showing on this page. And Craft is amazing at extracting that information. Oh, I wish Notion did this. If they spent some time on that and less on the API. But I mustn't get sidetracked. So we can send this out to a PDF, and you get lots of options in here. And what's happening is you get everything that's on the first page, the page that you're looking at, but you also get everything that's inside there as well. It expands it, and you get one glorious PDF. But PDF wasn't perfect for everybody. And we'll do a save so we can see what that actually looks like. We will stick it on my desktop. Amazing that the desktop's empty, isn't it? Amazing. Right, and there it is. So you get one beautiful PDF. You do not have to drill down to all the things that's inside it. It actually expands it all and shows you all of the information. Perfect. But the other way that you might want to share information is for the socials. And what they've added is the ability to export it as images. So if we go into the image export, you can even format it on the way out, but let's just scroll through and see what you actually get. You get all of the information that's in your page, and this is at page level. In here, you have your options, so you can choose whether it's square, which would be perfect for Instagram. You can have it landscape, portrait, whether it fits the document, what size font you want, and whether you want to hide the title. So these are all the options for the custom export. In addition to those, you've got the ability here to change the look completely. So if what you're sharing is kind of, warm and fuzzy, you might want this serif font. If it's more codey, then you might want it to look like code. You're not changing your document to match this. This is just formatting the output. And obviously some of these are also making the background a lovely pale yellow. And you've got all the dark versions as well. So it can look completely different when it comes to sharing it. Now that would be good if it was code, wouldn't it? And in honour of the Notion API, let's send it out looking like that. But what you will get this time is graphics. So let's do the save images. And we will put them on the desktop and I will show you what you get. Right, let's get rid of that. So because there's more than one output, it creates a folder. We go in there and we have our two images, one for page 1 and one for page 2. And they now are images that you could instantly send to Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, wherever, whatever socials you're on, which is handy. It's one of those features that my first thought was, I can't see me using that. And my second thought was, yeah, I might put that in a presentation. So I think it has a use. It's not the biggest new feature, but it's probably one of the most obvious. And to be honest, the feature a lot of people might use. Come on, keep up with me. Keep up with me. Right, the next thing that they've actually added is a help site. So let's get back to Vivaldi. Did I close that Vivaldi? Oh, probably that one at the bottom, wasn't it? There we go. Right, there is a help site. Until this point, there has not been a help site. But there is support.craft.do. And now there is an entire support site there for you. And it's beautiful. It's just as beautiful as the craft documents. One thing that does concern me with them, they have a branding kit that you can download when you're talking about craft. And obviously one of the updates about 3 or 4 weeks ago was they changed their icon, and they've not changed it. They're not using the new icon on their own help center. I have no idea why. In honour of the Notion API, this demo won't work. Yeah, it's a bit like that. You'll love it. So it's very easy to get going with it. It works exactly the same as Craft does. So you're drilling down and you've got your breadcrumbs to go back. And it is beautifully documented. If you need help, you will find it in here. I think that is a good thing to spend time on, because Craft isn't exactly Evernote. It's got way more features than that. So people do have a lot of questions with it. So I think the help site is indeed a good addition. You can search it if you need to. So like one of the things I was looking at was maybe formatting. So if we search for formatting, do you want to use quick styles, adding text, and you've got all the stuff on there. One of the things that I tried inadvertently this week, I don't even know if that's in here. No, it's not. And it just worked. I was blown away. Right, let's go back to Craft. Let's say, if I'm in Notion and I want to turn something green, so let's say that heading, I want to turn it green. You can use the slash menu, and pretty much in any application you can do that, with the possible exception of Rome, which is very text-based. But you can put the slash menu, put a colour, and it will change the text to that colour. Brilliant as far as it goes. But what I needed to do, I had all these things here and I wanted to convert the whole lot. Anyway, I was in Notion and I tapped the / key, did absolutely nothing. Had no concept of multiple blocks. I don't know what possessed me to try it again in here, but I did. And in here, if I would like to change the colour of those, change them all just by being selected. Oh, that's good. That's good. I wonder if Craft are going to have an API. No, I'm getting sidetracked again. Okay, so that's just an aside that the slash menu works with multiple blocks selected. That is such a time saver. Oh, that is a time saver. I mean, I might want that as toggles, and now they're all toggles. Just too good. Or I can change them back to bullet points. Or headings, or whatever I need to do. Right, there are some editing improvements. Very difficult to show you because it's all about shortcuts and how you navigate from page to page. But basically, all of the navigation that works in a browser now works in here. So you've got all of that to think about. You also have, so let's go to our projects in here. There's our potential demos. But let's say what I actually would want in here is a new folder. Now, we've done this before. And when we did, there were 2 sets of icons. So we'll create our test folder. And the 2 sets of icons are these icons, which are the Craft native icons. And if we carry on scrolling down, there's all the standard emojis. Although, having said that, there are some that used to work that are now giving me a question mark, and I don't know. Would I go from Notion to Craft for MacBites After Hours? What I'm using Craft for at the moment, Pete, is I need to see my delivery notes, which is basically just a running order, on an iPad. And Notion is not great to navigate on an iPad. So that was my primary reason for using it. My running orders are now in Craft. When we've done, they would then be copy and pasted and put into Notion. There's a lot of overlap between the two, but the distinction really is, I would say if you are only using an iPad or primarily using an iPad, Craft will probably suit you better, subject to whether you need databases, because at the moment Craft does not have databases. You can nest pages as deep as you like, but there's no concept of a database. So if you think about what we do with After Hours, it's in a database. So I would leave it where it was. But what I've done is actually add it to my tool stack, and using more applications doesn't freak me out. But many people that I talk to, it's like I'm looking for the one app. There isn't one app. Forget it. Don't even bother looking. There is no one app that does everything. For instance, this week, I've been on a course. This course will go on for 5 weeks, and it makes sense to have that in a database, doesn't it? Oh, put session 1 and session 2 database. Obvious. And I actually chose to do it in Rome, which is very, very text heavy. I just choose the right tool for the job. And what Craft is giving me is the ability to share things with Mike in our shared space. The beauty of Craft over Notion is if you've got your personal space and you've got space for your helicopter work, and then maybe work at work, and then family stuff, you can separate that out into multiple spaces and you don't pay any extra. With Notion, every single space is another however much. For 2 people to have one space for 1 year is $200. So it's quite expensive. Craft would be much less expensive, but it doesn't do databases yet. That answer may change down the line if it does, and then I'd have to think about how I would get stuff in and out. But let's get back to these icons. So some of them aren't working. I'm sure they'll fix that in a point update. But you may remember the last time we looked at it, these came up to about here, I think, and I don't think they went any further. They have added more icons, and these are the ones that are at the bottom. The one that I was actually looking for last time was a microphone, and I still don't see a microphone. I did see this one though, and I thought, what's that? I thought it was a horse's head. It's a piggy bank with some coins in front of it. I thought, interesting. Have we got a microphone yet? But no, I don't think we do have a microphone. But you know what? The most important thing of all, we have a dog and we have a cat. So, you know, they've done their work, haven't they? Once you've got a dog and cat icon. Oh, yes, Lola. She's just grumbled then. Oh. Pete says, I'd like to be a Notion ninja, but I need iOS for my less techie wife. That's why you're so hopeful for the API. It'll get there, Pete. It'll just be a while. It will. On iOS, you can't beat Craft. It just feels like an iOS app. And on the Mac, it feels like a Mac app. There are very few applications that can say that. But, you know, to some degree, you have to think about, where can I go and where can I come from? So on this course, it's like, what app should I use? And the advice is just use Evernote. Why? You can export from Evernote and it'll work. Now, we did that when we did a demo of Craft, which was, what if I'm using Evernote and I now want to use Craft? And is there a direct import? Can Craft import from Evernote? No, it can't. Can Evernote export to Craft? No, it can't. But Bear speaks both languages and it's free. So export to Emacs, import it into Bear, and then export it to Craft. I know it's a pain in the proverbial, but, you know, it works. They will improve onboarding in Craft. accepting data from elsewhere, and that will obviously include Notion. So there are more icons. There are pretty icons, and we can put them on folders. So shall we have the dog? In honour of Lola not wanting to go out, we will create the folder, and there's the folder with the dog. So let's put that into projects, which means when we go in there, we can see the dog. There's the dog. Ah, who doesn't want that, hey? Another thing that is very difficult to show you, but if we do this in here, is when you've got a dialog box, which is like the white area. You've got the dialog box. You up to now have not been able to use shortcut keys. And you know me. I am shortcut key crazy. There's a funny story with that, but I'll leave it for another time. And I am pressing keys and expecting things to happen, and things are not happening. They fixed it. So if I now want to get rid of that dialog box, I did that with a shortcut key. If I want to move from the dialog box and use shortcut keys for the create button and things like that, I can do that. So that's another thing that they've fixed. There's a lot of shortcut key stuff that they've done, and they've updated the web editor. Now, you tell me, would you rather use a native desktop app, or would you rather use a web browser? My answer until now has been, well, obviously the native app. I don't use the native app for Notion. I don't. It's in a browser. It's in a browser because I can have multiple tabs open. And then the Notion app, yeah, it's Electron. It's not all there. So with the majority of the services, like Rome's just brought out a desktop app, and I tried it and thought, I can't use that. There was nothing actually wrong with it per se, but the bar at the top was grey, and I'm used to it being black. So I thought, nice, no, I'll leave it in a browser. Hello, Tracy. Oh, you know me and my shortcuts, Kim. Pete would rather have an app. If the app is great, then so would I. But if the functionality that you're accessing, like Rome, is a wall of text, and it doesn't matter whether it's in an app or in a browser, then I'll stick with the browser. What I will do is pimp the browser to glory, which Kim has already requested. What did Kim call it? It wasn't pimping the browser. Build with me. Build Vivaldi with me. So I could show you how I do that and make it really worthwhile. Is Rome worth upgrading to from Notion? Oh, Pete. Rome is a wall of text. If Mrs. Pete isn't comfortable in Notion, she's going to hate Rome. And Rome is also not really multiplayer. You can make it multiplayer, but it's not natively multiplayer. Think of Rome as putting in information that at the moment you can't see the connection between. So I'm reading a book and I've got some book notes to put in, or I've watched a video and I'm making notes as I go. So this week I've been... Tell you what, I will put that down to show you next week, show you behind the scenes of the course I'm on. Right? And what I've done is every session... Rome is fab. You're quite right, Carol. I can't live without it now. Oh, if it ever goes away, I'm gonna die. But it excels if you know how to use it, and it doesn't come with a manual. So it's really trial and error. Now that's what book club's about. It's less about the book. I think we've read about probably about 10 pages now. It's less about the book and more about how to actually use Rome to create a Zettelkasten. That's a whole different business. I will show you that, and I will do that in relation to Smart Notes as well, and then you'll understand the difference. But no, I would say, for what you're thinking of, no, I wouldn't go the Rome way. What I would suggest is probably Craft or Notion, depending on what it is you're trying to do, or both, like me. Oh, hello, Jonathan. Jonathan's with us at last. Right, so those were all of the updates that we have. And the last thing that I said was it's got a light and dark toggle in the web version now as well. But to me, I use the desktop version of Craft because it's so good. The desktop version of Notion, the desktop version of Rome, they're quite primitive at the moment. With Notion, I don't even know if they're bothering anymore. With Rome, they are. This is literally the first iteration, and they're taking feedback and improving it. But Notion haven't updated the Notion desktop app in over a year. So There's been no new features. I mean, it will let you open multiple windows. I don't want windows. I want tabs like that. Craft lets me do tabs, lets me do windows as well if I want. That's why I just host it in a browser and be done, let the browser take the strain. But to do that, you need to have the right browser. So shall we cross-reference all of that with Vivaldi and have a build with me? Right, I put it all down there now. What Pete needs is a data depository that you can update and will integrate with iCal. Easily interrogate for both. A data depository. Right. What sort of data are you putting in there? Is it files? Kim's a year into Daily Notion and won't go back. You can make Notion work for you. It's just I think the expectations that they had for this API are not there on day one. And people are now screaming about that. Data-wise, if you want some kind of repository for files that would integrate with a calendar, have a look at ZenKit. We never paid for ZenKit and we got the integration with the calendar. We were about to pay for ZenKit and I sent them a support ticket and I didn't like the fact that they didn't bother replying. But ZenKit itself automatically links with that. Shall we put that down as well? Shall we put down ZenKit and just show you the calendar link? Show you what the API should have been? I'll put that down for next week. But what you've got in ZenKit is you've got cards that represent your data. So a bit like one episode of After Hours, or in your case, one document. And then all you would have to do to add a new document is add a card and then add the document to the card. And then all Mrs. Pete would need to do is go to the same place and click it. So that might work better for you at the moment. We'll see how far the API gets in the next week, shall we? Can't see it getting that far in a week. Right, let's get that down there and head off into the next topic. Right, we're back over there. Oh, don't you like this one? Camtasia. Let me know in the chat if you use some kind of video editor. Let me know. Can you link files in Craft? Yes, you can, Carol. Yes, you can embed them, you can link them. You can backlink, but not to the block level. It's page level backlinking. I have tried the backlinking thing. Can't be doing with it. In Rome, it just works. It's fabulous. And in Craft, it's like, why have I got a page called Kim floating around in the ether? And then I think, oh, that's the tag, isn't it? So then I have to move it out of the way. Whereas with Rome, I don't have to consider where anything is, which is perfect. Perfect. Right, Camtasia. We first looked at this a couple of weeks back when it was released. Pete's got Final Cut Pro. Oh, enjoy yourself in that. Obviously Camtasia, primarily for screen recordings. And this is the new version. Now, we had fun last time there was a new version. It's like our expectations and what we get poles apart. But they have actually added some really nice stuff to this. Are we there yet? No, we're not there yet. We do not have everything that we want. But let's go and have a look at what we do actually have. Now, it could unceremoniously crash all over the place because I am actually recording in the 2020 version. So we have a local recording. And that's fine and dandy at the moment. I also have the other version open. So I've actually got two versions of Camtasia running right now. This is going to be fun, isn't it? Fingers crossed. Right, this is the interface. It looks identical. So it always does, and you're like, what's the new features? And really, looking at it, no idea. You look and you think, I don't know. Can't see anything new. But luckily, there are new features. Right, to make that work, I'm going to need some media. And I did download some media. I'm assuming it's finished downloading. Where's my mouse pointer headed off to? Alarmingly. Right, I had some media downloaded. No, not on the desktop, I didn't. I put it in there. Right, how big are these? Oh my. Shall I take the smallest one? Right, I'm just going to put some media in the media bin at the moment. Okay, and this is going to upset it greatly given the size of it. But I'm going to do it anyway, so we've got some media to work with. Right, you do have an option when you're starting this, whether you want to record the screen or edit something. This is the recorder. And this hasn't changed. And that is one of the problems. So much as we love it, ScreenFlow has for the last 2 versions been able to record multiple screens. Not only screen 1 and screen 2 of your setup, so I've got 3 screens, it could record all 3 of them. It could also record iOS devices at the same time. Camtasia couldn't. So when 2020 came out, we thought, oh, they're bound to add that. No, they did not add that. And no, they haven't added that this time. So what you do have the opportunity to do is to record one of the screens. And you can see in here the 3 that the 3 that I've got. So I've got my built-in Retina, and I've got the one on my left and the one on my right. And that's what the green thing is that's flying across. You can also choose, the quality. So do you want it 4K, 1080, 720? But you can only from there, you don't have screens extra that are your iOS devices well, now I actually haven't got one plugged in. But even if I did, you can only record one screen, which is why we have the green border around this one, because that's what's set up in there right now. Camtasia is not on setup yet. I can't see them putting it on setup anytime soon. They consider it to be a professional tool, and they kind of tolerate the Mac world that don't really want to pay what they charge the Windows users. So they kind of tolerate the Mac world. I can't see it myself. Oh, Debbie is using iMovie for now, waiting for this to see how to use Camtasia. Excellent. There is a new feature. When you say looking to try animating in it, there is a new feature by which it will import animation files. Now, I'm not 100% sure what type of animation files they are, but it's an industry standard animation file. So if that's something that you can export from somewhere else, Camtasia can now read it. Pete says if you needed to do a screen recording, you record it in QuickTime with Black Hole Audio, then reformat it with Handbrake and edit it in Final Cut. Good grief, Pete. The thing with QuickTime is you will get a huge file, and that will make editing it quite difficult. With Camtasia, the files it records, the ones that we're looking at this recorder for, the files it records are really tiny by comparison. Obviously, Mike and I switched to Camtasia in 2018, 3 years ago. Despite the fact it doesn't record multiple screens, I'm sticking with it, and Mike's sticking with it. It has other benefits as far as we're concerned, but for screen recording, if you're recording yourself, a video of yourself, like photo booth style, then the file size would be similar in either situation because there's so many frames. But for screen recording, both Camtasia and ScreenFlow are way better than QuickTime will ever be. You start QuickTime and, within a minute or so, it's got the fans kicking in. It's not really optimized for it. And I don't know why, because Apple could do that so easily. But that's just an aside. So this hasn't changed much at all. You have in here, if you turn on your FaceTime, which I can do quite happily because there's a sticker over it. I follow Kim. So that's why it's black. I never use it. Never use it. I do have another webcam that I do use, but I unplugged that. I'm one of the tin hat brigade, aren't I, with the tin foil hat on? No, I don't want any accidents. You know what Zoom's like. Got a mind of its own. But you can record that. But again, it's one screen, one camera, and then you've got your audio. Now, you might think, why is that set to Chrome Canary? Surely it should be a microphone. Not if I'm trying to record something from Chrome Canary and I don't want any other sound. So I have physical equipment. The H6 is physical. This is a physical microphone. The iMac microphone is a physical microphone. These are virtual microphones. And the reason that I bother to create a virtual microphone is to pick up the sound from an application. I do that with an application called Loopback, which is a whole different story. And then you've got the ability to capture your system audio. Now, you might think to yourself, well, just a minute, if there's sound in Chrome Canary and you can capture system audio, then surely that would capture the sound from Chrome Canary. It would. It would. But it would mix it with all of the other sound. So if I happen to have, and this has actually happened, trust me, I've got one webinar open in one browser and another webinar open in another. I am actually listening to both, one in each ear, and I need a recording, then I need the recording separately. I need the audio captured separately. And that's why I use a virtual microphone rather than the system audio. I very, very infrequently use the system audio, if ever. But it was one of the things that wasn't working, and then when it got fixed, I was happy. So there we go. That's the recorder. Once you've recorded something, then this is the editor. And this is where the updates start. So I've got here some video that I've downloaded from Envato Elements. And I'm going to just put that on there. One thing they still haven't fixed is if I move this and I want it bang in the centre of the screen, I actually have there the yellow lines, vertical and horizontal, that's telling me it's centred. Right. Is it absolutely perfect? No, it's not. When you look at the position over here, there, let's get that up, these, it should be 0, and it's not. And it bugs the heck out of me. It's only out a fraction, but you need to make sure when you put stuff on here that you've accommodated that, because if not, when you produce it, you could have a black bit where you don't want a black bit because it was 0.0 of a millimetre out. Right, so we've got video 1. Let's put video 2 down here, bump it up to that, and were you video 3? I think you were, so get them on the timeline. Right, the first new feature is in the transitions. The transitions that were in Camtasia originally were for screen flow type recordings, screencast recordings. There were a couple of weird ones in there, but even so, they tended to be for screen capture. And what they've done is they've realised that people are putting together small videos that have stuff like this in it, that's not talking head and it's not screen recordings, and you may want different transitions. So they have added anywhere between 75 to 100 depending on who you listen to. Right, there's all of these, there's blur spins, there's all sorts. Checkerboard was there before. I don't think Chevrons was. All of these. You'll see that you can favourite these. So if expanding squares, that's what you want, you can favourite it. I favourited just the fade. Just keep it simple, just the fade. But there are all of these transitions now. So shall we find something exotic? There are really now so many. That grid flip might not be bad. Right, all you need to do is drag it down here. And then as you're playing that on there, you get a grid flip from one video to another. So basically what I'm saying in here is there's a whole load more. Best advice with this is stick to 1 or 2. Unless you're trying to shock or there's a particular reason to use one. Don't just every time you move from one clip to another, stick something in there. Now, something like noise, let me have a look at what noise does. You could actually put noise, rather than transitioning from clip 2 to clip 3, if in the middle of your clip, like this, you would like some noise to appear, as if it's like a feature. So think of like 80s static and stuff. You can put a transition within a single clip just by cutting the clip in half. Command and T cuts the clip in half. I've not cut any video out, but now I can drop that between it. And in the middle of the same video, it will just like go staticky, but the same video is playing. So if you want particular things like this, then this is a good way to go. Oh, let's try a few more, shall we? Shall we put this one on here? Let's get rid of that. Let's zoom in there. It was that, wasn't it? There we go. So I will get rid... Oh, there we go. It's gone over the top. So there's the page peel from one to another. Like I say, some of them are fantastic. Some of them will work. You'll only ever use it once in a lifetime. But if you want to test them out, feel free. There's so many. You will be in there for days and days. Pixelated, the whole lot. The reason that they've added these is that they seem to be extending Camtasia to support, or actually, trying to sell it to people who are not doing purely desktop recordings. 99% of what I do is just a desktop recording. I don't particularly need amazing things like this, but I can see that there would be a use. So if these videos here was that I want to like turn them into, say like I'm doing a tutorial and I've got this puzzle one here, that might actually work well if I'm doing a video that's promoting a tutorial that you've got like the puzzle pieces on it. It just depends on the content, but what I would say with these is use them sparingly, and particularly only if they work in relation to the content that you're doing. But you've now got hundreds and hundreds more of them, is the essence of it. So there's the first thing. One of the things that we looked at last time when we looked at 2020 is that you have in here in your annotations, you've got shapes. The first lot of shapes is the callouts, and then you've got arrows, and they're all grouped together. So you've got plain shapes, you've got blurred highlights, drawing, so kind of sketch motion on it. What that kind of thing will do is if I put that on there and we pull it back, it will actually draw that out. So a sketch motion is where there's something already animated for you to just use. But we don't particularly want a smiley face on there, do we? You can also put your keystrokes on there. I tend not to do that. I tend to do that in a totally different way, which now we've got data merge in Publisher might be a lovely demo. I'll explain more about that when we look at that. But these are your annotations. So if we look at some of the callouts here, make sure that you've got all turned on, unless you want to go through the theme thing here. But all will show you everything that you've got. So let's say we wanted to put one of these on here. And I've got something else maybe in the background. So what I'm going to do here is going to move this up. I know it'll make the video much smaller. But what we can do here is I've got a shape that I want to put over there. And I want to restrict this view of this video to this shape. And it brought in last time a matte. I think it was in the options in here. Track matte mode. And you had to turn on a track matte in here. And it worked, there was no problem with it. So with that selected, and we're doing it on the track, we bring that in and we'd use the alpha. You can see that this shape is now constraining the video below it. If I move this video, you can see the video is actually like playing, which I can do the playhead as well. But you can only see the bit of it that is the circle and the track above it. And of course you have turned on at this stage, everything that's on that track is now a matte. So if we had another one of these further up, so this isn't constrained at this point, you can't see any of it at this point. You put that on and then you can. So that's what we're talking about, masking is what we're talking about. But let's go back in there and say that that's none. Right, but we still have this circle on here. Right, somewhere in here, and I must admit, I'd look at it and I thought, yeah, is it a visual effect? It is, it's medium matte. The difference is that you're adding that just to that clip. So if we move along here, you see all of the video. When you come to that bit, you only see the bit that's masked by the shape, and it says there's the medium matte. And in there, you can, in your properties, edit the medium matte, which is pretty cool, because before the entire track had to be the mask, and now you can mask individually. So if in here I wanted to change that so it's more of a highlight, maybe I'm highlighting my mouse pointer, that's independent of this one over here, which actually isn't being used as a matte at all at the moment. But if I dragged a medium matte onto that one as well, and in here I bring up the properties of that matte, then that one I could have down even further if I wanted to. So it's much more flexible than it used to be. Much more flexible. That actually was so much of a pain before that I probably wouldn't have bothered with it. Now I can see there's definite scope for using that, particularly to highlight the mouse. That's still one of the problems in here. You can't swap out the mouse pointer, but that's just my list of peeves that has been growing for 3 years. Eventually they'll deal with that, she said. Right. One of the features that is pretty amazing and that I use all of the time is grouping things. So let's get rid of these and let's go back to this video. And we'll get rid of that while we're at it. And can we join that back together? Right. So we've got this video. It doesn't matter what it's of. We have this video. I could do with a cable here before this dies on me. Do you remember what I said earlier today, Mike? You don't, do you? Bless him. You are paying attention, aren't you?
No, very much so.
Good, good, good. I said, who would start a session and not have the laptop plugged in? Well, obviously I'm on a Mac. I didn't plug the iPad in. Right, the iPad is now plugged in. Don't want it to die. Okay. So what was I doing with this one? Let me have a look. What was I doing with this one? Done the mat. A couple more options that we've got in here. So we've got this video here. Let's say you want to play. In fact, I'll get it from the media again, so I've got multiple copies. So I've got one video sat on top of the other video. Right? You won't see the bottom one at all unless you do something with this one. So some of the things that you could be doing are changing the opacity. So if I change the opacity of the top video, you can start seeing the video below, one's on top of the other. So basically you need to do something with the top one if you want it to interact with the one below. But what I want to do with this video is down in our visual effects in here, we have an option for corner rounding. So when we drag that on, doesn't do a thing initially, but when we expand it and click on it, the properties change in relation to this video. Right, so to see it in action, I'm going to move the video over this side. There. There's now nothing behind it. Okay, so if I move this, you're just going to get a black background. That's so we can see it. So I'm going to bring up the properties of the corner rounding and turn the radius on. And what you get is the video rounds to be an eyeball if you take it all the way. But we'll round it with some corners like that. You can choose which corners. So if you toggle them off in here, you can create quite a nice effect. Look at that. And obviously the video plays in it. So it's like a mask. It's a pre-configured mask where you can use the properties to interact with it and decide in what way you're changing that. Now, the background at the moment is black. There aren't many applications that let you change the colour of the background canvas. But you can in here because you have project settings. In your project settings, you can choose the colour of your background. And as you choose that, you can see what's happening up there. But most of the time, it's black. So I'm going to leave that set to black because I'm going to show you once that's configured on a clip, all you need to do is pull that back over the top of another clip. And now when you play it, so let's just press play, you can see you've got the background clip playing, you've got the foreground clip playing, but the foreground clip is masked in the corners. Let's put that back again. And you can see the video below. So if you want to have one video playing over the top of another in some kind of shape, you can either use the matte or you can use that corner rounding option. Right, what else do we have in here? I won't show you, but just to mention it, you've now got support for colour LUTs. So the lookup tables that we discussed in, I think it was the Affinity photo session, are now supported in here. So that's where you have a pre-configured colour table. So you can change the look of your video. So basically, if you've got a video and you would like it to be aged and you've got a LUT to do that, all you would need to do is drag the effect onto the video, open it up, and you've got your colour LUT up there. And there's a couple, you've got, this is just enhanced contrast, but you can then import them. So a little bit specialist maybe, but lots of people use LUTs that they might want the video to match something, so it'll be fine. Okay. Oh, Stephen says, used Camtasia 3 years ago. Seems to have improved a lot. Yeah, I remember we had a demonstration at our trainers group in, was it about 2004?
Something like that.
I think it was £800 at the time. And it was like, we'd love that, but we can't afford the projector from the budget of the training club and the software. Luckily, the guy that did the demo, he was a lovely, lovely guy. In fact, he's popped in here every now and then, hasn't he? Derek. And Derek had this at school. He was a teacher. And he brought it in so we could do demos with it. We were very grateful. But yeah, it has come on a way. There are still things that are missing, but the things that are missing are like, well, I think they're missing. Other people might think that these things are absolutely, they're what they need. They're perfection. That's what they need. Some of them less so as far as I'm concerned, but it does do everything I need it to do. The only time I would ever have to use another application, which would be ScreenFlow, Screenium, or ScreenFlick, is if I need to record multiple screens at the same time. And in that case, I would need to use something else. Or something else in addition to this. As you can see, tonight I'm actually recording into Camtasia 2020 and I'm editing in 2021. And throughout the week, with certain work that I've been doing that I cannot afford to lose, I cannot afford the Mac to just take one on itself or an application take one on itself. I've actually recorded the same demonstrations at the same time into Camtasia and ScreenFlow, and the machine copes perfectly, which is quite amazing, isn't it? But it does. Right, other thing you've got on here is motion blur. So if you've got something that's moving from position A to position B, you can add motion blur on it, which just makes it look more natural. I'm not going to waste time with that. It's just more and different visual effects that we've got. One of the things last time that Mike got giddy about was the fact that you could swap these tracks about. You still giddy about that?
No, it's
passé now. My problem with this was, let's say in track 2, I want to call it overlays. Can't see the end of it. It drives me insane. I know you can't have the sidebar here with the track titles on, taking up that much room. But really, I can't put overlays on it? It's 8 characters. Well, one of the features that they've added, not in the Mac... Oh, hang on. I've just about got it. It's not giving me a good thing to stretch it at all, is that you can now take it out that much. But they demonstrated that on Windows and said it wasn't available on the Mac. And it isn't if you try and hover over it. But if you try and get it in just the right place, you might be able to. It's not easy. It's not the edge. It's further in. But I am much more likely to have that stretched out like that. Maybe not that far. But enough so I can see the basics, but it's not easy to grab hold of it. But there you go. You can do that. I will look at the group editing now. But before I do that, I remember last time it was one of the Debs, but which one? I can't remember. Oh no. Last time when we were looking at this, it was the fact that there was no audio that you could see, that you can visualize the audio. Now, I don't think I have in here any media that's got sound on it. That wasn't clever. Oh, girl, what were you thinking? That wasn't clever. Right, what I will do is I will go back to Envato Elements and I will find some audio just so you can visualise it. You won't hear it, but we can visualise it. So let's get some sound effects. Shall we have... Now it's suggesting a seagull or a cartoon car horn. That's much more MacBites, isn't it? Let's get that downloaded. Right, just to show you. So I now have this download, which is a zip file. That's not helpful either. So let's get the zip file and let's get the audio. Right, okay. We have a WAV, which I will add in over here. I'll then put the WAV on the timeline like that and zoom in to the WAV. Right. And what I will do is make a copy of the WAV and we will put that in. Right. We're looking at this area here under the green properties button. If we go back over here, when we play it, we have a signal over here showing us the audio. Have I heard from which Deb that was yet? I don't think I have, but it's definitely a Deb. More than that, you can get more detail from it if you click actually on the bars themselves. And then that gives you this option here, which is actually showing you the decibel level, which is pretty cool. That is pretty, I'm liking that. That's a nice addition. So there you go. It would make more sense to turn one or other of them off. You can turn off the vertical, but not the horizontal. Never mind, they're getting there. They're getting there. Right, another thing that I do a lot. So I'm going to move this out of the way. I'm going to go back to the beginning of this video. And I will show you what I do for putting the titles and credits on something. Right, I usually have in my library, and we do have stuff in here, we've got the Camtasia library, and we've got the default library. That doesn't have much in it, does it? I do have libraries that do have stuff in it, but we will go with the user default library, which doesn't have anything in it at the moment. And what I do is I actually create some titles. Now, it's easier than you would think in here. You've got a couple of options. You could do the majority of this in Affinity Designer and bring them in as like finished artwork. But if you want to animate it, then it's best to do it in here. And you might want to annotate stuff. Mine are fairly simple. I just want something at the beginning. So what I tend to do with it, I've got mouse problems as well. What I tend to do with it is get some annotations and start from the annotations point. My mouse is not scrolling. Let's blow up it. What are you doing? Shall we try that again? Oh, the mouse has disappeared entirely. Okay, let's try it again. You're back. Okay, glad you're back. Just in case you decide to take another mouse holiday, I will plug in, because I have my spare mouse, my magic mouse, but it's probably dead. So I'm just going to plug that in case it goes completely. Right, so I'm going to grab one of these shapes here. So let's have a look at that one. And the reason I say I'm going to have a look at it is, what I want is something that's got square corners, and some of these are rounded. That one's got square corners. That one's absolutely fine. And what I want is some kind of title for my video. So the first thing I'm going to need is a background. So I put this over the top and cover up the entire video at the beginning, and that's what we've got here, this shape. That is the background of my titles. Now obviously over here, when you have a shape on the right hand side, you have the ability to choose a colour for it. In fact, you can choose a gradient if you want. So you've got properties that you can change. So if I wanted that to be maybe more MacBitesy orange, like this, then I could do that there. Hold on to that thought. Right, the next thing that I need is to say what it actually was. So for that, I need other annotations, but this time I'm looking for text. And I want one that doesn't have a background and that looks quite nice. So either that one or that one would do fine. So I put that on and then put in it what it is. So let's say it's MacBites After Hours 128. Right, this was also something that they changed last time, which is this option to auto resize the text. As I keep adding text, it gets smaller and smaller and shrinks in the box. I could never understand why anybody wanted that, because you need consistency between these things. But it's fine, because you can turn it off. And that was introduced last time. So once I've got that there, and I know that's about the right layout for that, I will have it aligned to the left though, like that. And then I'd like some date underneath it. So I'll choose this one that's fractionally smaller. I will change the height of that and make that left aligned, and then I'll put the date in. So making sure I've got the text, it is the 14th of May. Where's the year going? No, it's 1985, isn't it, D? Okay, 1985, it was my happy year. My happy year. Right, that's moving and it shouldn't be, so let me grab hold of this and move that down there. Now, what I then wanted to do with that was I have the background, I have the show, I have the date, I may have a logo, could be lots of other things. Shall we do... We'll do a logo. It's loading up the library. Let's find something MacBitesy. MacBites. There we go. Now, although this is after hours, do I have after hours in here? I do. I've got Wolfie. I've got Wolfie. Wolfie's coming in. There he is. So I might want to put that like that, so we know it's an after hours. Now, the problem is, from a practical perspective, when this happens, is that you've got all of these tracks now. Everything's on a separate track. We've got the background, we've got one text block, we've got two text blocks, we've got the logo. So what I used to do with that was group them together. So just Command and G. And it created a group called Group 1, and it tells you 4 clips in it. On the Mac, what I'm about to show you now used to happen. That was the default. But on Windows, what I'm about to show you is new to 2021. But it's also slightly different in terms of what you can do on a Mac. So the essence of what I'm showing you is that to edit this, you would double click the group name and all the tracks that you had are there with their own timeline, and you can edit away to your heart's content in a separate timeline. That's the bit that's new to Windows. It used to open up in a mini window for Windows. And let me close that down. That's the first thing to think about, that you can edit it in that way. On the Mac, it was always that way. But once you group something at this point now, you have some extra options, and the extra options are rather cool. Because I'll show you the old way first. Let's say I need to change the background colour. Then I'm going to have to double click and go in here. And I'm going to have to find the shape. There's the shape. There's the orange. So if I wanted that to be some kind of blue that matches that, there we go. I've changed the background. But now I've got the main timeline and I've got the sub-timeline. And I've got to remember that I've got to come out of that in here. So let's close that and we come out to it, and when we're done. Okay. It's just, there's scope for having an accident, isn't there? There's scope for going in here and thinking, I'll just grab, oh no, now I've moved it. And of course you won't know where it was, and you'll have done 20 other things before you realise, which means that you can't go back and use the undo. So coming into this sub-timeline to edit is a bit fraught with danger. If you know what you're doing, it's fine. But the addition that we have now is once you've created a group and you select the group, up here we have group properties. Now these were available in 2020, Camtasia 2020, but the limitation was these were the ones that you downloaded and they were from TechSmith. And you were good as long as you were using theirs, but you couldn't make your own. The huge update with 2021, this to me is the killer feature, you can now make your own. So what I'm actually showing you, from one perspective is you've just grouped some stuff together. Yeah, I have. And now that group has got properties. But it's what the implications are of that. So I now have group 1 properties up here. I can select a theme, so there is a default theme, which isn't that different to what I've got, but never mind. But it says call out. And there's blue next to it. Interesting. And what happens is I can change these properties from this panel without endangering myself by going inside, which is nice. But in addition to that, I've got 2 text blocks here. So when it's next week and it's 129, I can update that and I can update the date without going in and touching it. So I'm not going to cause any problems anywhere, right? That is huge as far as I'm concerned. That is pretty amazing. My problem was, when I went into this, that I could, so the first time I did this, I could edit the MacBites after hours, but I couldn't edit the date. Wasn't having it. And I thought there's got to be a way, what's going on? Also, you might want to change that logo. So, next to the group properties, we have a quick property editor. You're going to like this. Right, what we're seeing at the top is the bits that have been added that are visible properties. So if I don't want them to ever change, if I'm giving this to somebody and I don't really want them, you can't stop them per se, but you can make it more difficult if they don't know what they're doing. If I don't want them to be able to edit the MacBites bit, then I can take that away. It disappears from over here. And although you can go into it, double click it. Oh, it's not letting me in until I save that. Right, let's get back over here. So double click that. You can go in and you can edit it in here. No problem. It's the quick properties, which is pretty nice. That is good. So let's come back out of here and go back into the quick properties. Right, to add that back, you just click the green plus button. There's also this property here, available properties, of an icon. We can add that. And then you can change over here. So if you want that to say date and you want that to say background, so we'll just put in background. And this one is the icon. And that one is the show. And save that. What you've got in here now is even better. Although that hasn't updated, has it? That call out has not updated, even though I changed it. Let's go back in and see. Why did you not save that? Background. Did that update? No, it didn't. Oh, we found a bug. We found a bug, typical. Logo. See, that one's fine. It's not saying there's a problem until I save it. Guess who's getting a support ticket on Monday? They are. But it does mean that I can, change this. So if that's not orangey enough, which it isn't, it's more like that. I can change the date from in here and I can see it's the date. That'd be nice if it said show, but it doesn't, and that's their problem, not ours. And we've got this in here, which is the icon. So if we wanted more branding, let's see if we can drag and drop it. And it updates it without you having to do a thing. The reason I said can we drag and drop it is that we can also just nuke that, at which point we get to import a file. When we do that, we need to know where the icon is, and that's a long way off. So I'll just drag and drop it back in and it appears. That's amazing. Oh, that's good. I'm impressed with that. Do you like that? Do you like that one? Stephen does. Editing the text of a title without messing about. It's just too easy to move the text. It really is. It's far too easy to move that. I do not want to do that. Definitely don't want to do that. Right, in there. Was I going to do anything with that? Rename the group. So I would rename that as like titles. So it's much easier. And over here, I would probably put title track on there as well. If again I could spell it. Right. I'm not sure that's spelled right. I can't see properly. Right. So that's what we've got so far with that. That is a huge, huge feature, that. I am loving that feature. The thing with it is, that takes it to the next level, is you're using this in here and it's for your use. But if you're creating assets for corporate-wide use or for somebody on another machine, you also have the library feature. So you've got this default library here. We should probably have a MacBites library, shouldn't we? So let's create a new library. And we will call this MacBites. It's thinking about it. And now we've got a library. These, where it says titles, this is, let's go in and rename it again. This is the after hours titles. So we'll put that there. Right. At the moment, it's on my timeline. It doesn't exist anywhere else. This was one of my huge problems with ScreenFlow. You could make the most amazing stuff. There was nowhere to put it. So this was like 3 years ago. There was nowhere to put it to reuse it. I might want to reuse this on another recording. So with it selected, if I just hit plus, it will say either import into the library or add the timeline selection. So I'm going to add the timeline selection. And I will put in there, we'll put it properly, we'll put after hours titles. Use it in MacBites, put it in the MacBites library and add it. And it's added it. Now, at that point, technically speaking, I should be able to delete this, but this is where Camtasia can go a little crackers. At the moment, I've got 3 video clips, some of which are used twice. I've got the titles here that I've used, that I've created. I've got an asset that I've brought in terms of that logo, and nothing is saved at the minute, which means that these files they're existing where they are in terms of the video. So these videos are living in the downloads folder. They're not attached to this thing at the moment because I've not saved it. And the titles don't really exist anywhere at the moment other than in here, and they're not saved. But I did put a copy up here. But even before let's save the file. That's the best thing to do. So I'm going to save the file. I am not going to put it on the desktop. Bad things would happen if it was on the desktop. It would start to try and upload it. So I'm going to go into local, and I'm going to save it into local. Now, why it's taking a little bit of time to save, I didn't even put a title in, just left it untitled. It's taking a couple of seconds to save because it's saving those files, all of these video files, into a package file. And that's really important. Night, Tony. It's important because it means that this file, you can just pick it up and give it to somebody. And it's self-contained. Now, in the Windows version, it's not that easy. Mike uses the Windows version at work, don't you?
I use an old Windows version.
Bad words are said. The new feature in 2021 for Windows is that you can save a different file type. Now, in here, I've got Save As, and I can save it as a template. I've also got the ability to export it, and you'll see that local file's an option. But what export is talking about is the finished video. And in the Save As, in here, it's standalone project. So if we go into here and we want to save it in there, where it's got Create Standalone Project, it was there in the Mac. It was not there in Windows. They have added the ability to do that in Windows, is basically what I'm saying. So we've saved that, we're fine with that, but it's in one package, which means we should be able to close this down now. So let's close that and let's make a new file. Right, I don't have anything in here at the moment, but I could certainly start adding things to it like this. And I might then decide in my library, well, I'd like one of these as well. And it's there to do it with. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put it on there. It's not, obviously we've got problems in terms of the ratio, it's square, but never mind that. It's added it. And we didn't need to go and find all of those other files and stuff. And everything remains editable. So if we're going to do the one after that, which is the 28th. Episode 130, good grief, who thought it? Right, it's all updated. And that isn't even the same file. The benefit of that is if you've created some of these things, nothing to stop you selling them. Because in here, you can export the library. So you saw up here there were different libraries. You can create new libraries. You've also got the ability to manage the libraries, and one of these would be to export it. And when you export it, which we will put on the desktop as MacBites, you've just backed that up for yourself. Reveal it there, and it will show you in the Finder. There it is, MacBites library. And it is a zip file, but it's a Camtasia zip file that has your library in it. So one, you need to do that for yourself to back it up, and two, you need, or you could provide that for colleagues, or you could put it in marketplaces and actually sell the assets. Right, what else have I got on here? One of the nice ones is I don't know why they've done this, to be honest, but one of the things they've done in here, in your timeline settings in preferences, you can set the default for things. And one of the ones that was causing quite a problem was the default placeholder duration of 60 seconds. That's quite long for a placeholder if you're putting in like just the titles or just the credits. Not long enough maybe if you're putting in a 5-minute video. But this is where you can set that. And previously there was no option to set the default placeholder duration. And they've played around with them. They're now in alphabetical order. I guess that makes sense. I don't know. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But that's what they've done with it. So that is there as an option as well. Right, what else did we have? Oh, one nicety that came in. which I could probably do with that old project, which was that one, wasn't it? There we go. Right, because I've got some audio in it here. Got audio in it. Right, introduced in 2020 was the ability to normalise your audio. It doesn't now. This could have been added. I'm just having a look at this. This could have been added to the Windows version, and I know we do have Windows users here. I am not seeing the option that I'm looking for in the Mac version, but it is there in the Windows version. Why is that not there? That's naughty if it's in the Windows version and not the Mac one. Basically, you can normalise the entire track, but the new feature is to normalise each individual option here. And the option should be there, and it doesn't look like it's on the Mac version, but it's on the Windows version. They'll have a complaint on Monday about that. But those are the new features. I think the most important ones of those by far are the ability with the assets to group them together and have them on the timeline with a sub-timeline to edit, and the fact that the properties pull through to the properties panel on the right hand side. That is the new killer feature. So I'm going to have to go through all of my stuff and make sure that everything's neatly named correctly and that they do the work on their end, and mean that I can rename certain things, because at the moment this is very much, it is the new 2021 version, but it's 2021.1. I think we're going to need to get to 0.3 or 4 before they've ironed out some of those problems. But hopefully that will prove useful to you if you use it, or maybe tempt you if you aren't yet using it. No, we don't need to save that. Go away. Right, let's move on then. So let's get into here. Oh, we've got the pricing, haven't we? Oh, it's naughty. Right, it's tricky. If you're buying it as a new user, direct from TechSmith, it is going to cost you £216.29. The upgrade being £121.12. Nobody that I know who uses this ever pays the upgrade fee, because there is the maintenance agreement. That is a cost per year of £43.26, but you are guaranteed a new version every year. So in essence, you're paying that up front, but you will get another version with it. You will. Mine is due in June, middle of June. I've already had my first email about it. You know, can you give us some money?
I got one this morning.
There you go. Now, why would you pay that much when, if you go on the App Store, it's £99.99? The one in the App Store is Mac only. Benefit, you can install it on as many Macs as you've got. The one direct from them is activated. You can only install it on 2 machines. But you can, for the price of £200 and odd, you get the Windows version as well. So if you're a Mac user and you're not going to upgrade every time, and you have more than one Mac, might be worth looking at the App Store version. But if you are in any way cross-platform, you may want to think about that, because it's far more cost effective to pay for the first version and then take maintenance and forget it. Set it and forget it. But the one in the App Store is a benefit to me, because I buy both. I buy both. It's absolute rip-off for $99.99, that there is no upgrade price, unfortunately. So, but there again, $99.99 is half price, less than half price of a full license. But the thing is, you have to buy a new full version from the App Store every time you buy it. So the price is $99.99. I have seen it in there at £200, but for as long as I can remember, it's been $99.99. But just things that you have to think about in terms of that. Okay, it is time. Mouse has gone again. I think it's gone on mouse holiday. There we go. It's time for creating patterns in Affinity Designer. A request from Carol. Carol, is that about what we're looking for in the background? That was what I took from what you said. It's not just creating patterns, it's also using patterns as well. So we will do the whole thing of that. Now, I'm just thinking in terms of how long this is going to take. You want to do your Excel first? Because I'm going to need 2 minutes to fix that thing over there, unless you can do it.
Okay.
Right. Hold that thought. Oh, that was teasy, wasn't it? Unless I can fix that. No, I can't fix that. Not from here.
Right,
No.
well,
All right. I'm going to hand over to Mike, and then we're going to come back to that.
Let me start recording.
Right. We're going to go over to Mike. This is because I need to do something at 11 o'clock, and I can't do that if I'm talking to you guys, because I can't split my thing. Right. Carol's saying, yes, it certainly is. Excellent. Then if you can just hang on while Mike, who's a very naughty boy, look what he's done.
What have I done?
He actually put in the text in the email, no unicorns. And do you know what I said? I'll give them a unicorn. An Excel-toting unicorn in sunglasses, no less. So there's your unicorn for the day. Right, I need to come over here while we hand over to Mike. So when you go through the timings, Mike, do remember that was not happening. So you all ready?
I'm ready.
Excellent. Right, they can see you while I sort over there.
They can see me and my screen. Right.
Yep, and not the unicorns.
Not the unicorns. Right. I'm going to do another infographics demo with Excel, but without the unicorns. Although, especially for D, insert icons, search for unicorns, select the unicorn, click insert. There we go. And we'll make it a pink unicorn. So that was especially for D. And also to kill a few seconds so you can do whatever you need to do. No, that wasn't part of the demo. Although if we'd had a team of 11 unicorns last night, we might have actually won. Who knows?
Have you noticed he's still smarting?
Right. No. What I'm going to do today is create an infographic of the skills needed by a footballer. Because it's not just about skills. Skills can be learnt. Skills can be practiced. But you have to have, as Sir Alex Ferguson says, things like the right temperament. You have to fit into the team. You have to be a team player, etc., etc., etc. So, how can we take this set of data? And okay, I know some of you people aren't into football, but I'm sure you can take something similar and do what I'm doing today. The original demo that I saw was actually a set of skills needed to do a particular job. So a trainer, for example, you do need natural talent. You need to stay calm under pressure.
You need unicorns.
You need yeah. You
Goes without saying.
You don't need the ability to read the game, but you do need the ability to read your audience. Physical fitness, not really, no. I could sit here and deliver some training after stuffing myself with a bar of chocolate, so no.
That never happens.
And team player. Well, yeah, I think you have to be a team player if you're working in a training team. Yeah, so you can use this as a concept for many different things. I just decided to use football. Anyway, I'm going to start by going to B1 and I'm going to go to Insert and Symbols, and I'm going to change the font to Webdings and select a square. So I'm going to use that square there. Actually, it's the same square, isn't it? Use that one there from my recently used. Oh look, there's the unicorn from about 3 weeks ago on my recently used symbols list. There we go, and then just insert that in and close that. Okay, so I need to make sure that it's picked up Webdings, which it hasn't. So I just need to change the font of that cell to Webdings. Webdings. There we go. Okay, and it's changed it to a little circle, which is what I want. So I'm going to leave it as a circle. I probably could have found a circle font, but a circle symbol, but when I was playing around, I found the square and then changed it into a circle. So that's in B2. So if I then go to D2, sorry, that's in B1. If I go to D2, and put equals rept, which is a function we covered a few weeks ago. It repeats whatever character you choose, and in this case the character I want to repeat is whatever's in B1, and I want to make that absolute so that when I copy it down it keeps the reference to B1, and the number of times I'm going to repeat it is calculated as B2 times 100, because the values in column B are percentages. Now we get a load of ends, and if I copy that down we get a load more ends. But if I change the font of those cells to Webdings, and I'll just type Webdings, there we go, it's quicker, and also change the size of those to 16, what we now get is the number of circles based on the value in column B. So if I changed ability to read the game to 15%, it now gives us 15 circles. Change it back to 10%, it gives us 10 circles. I'll also change the colour of those circles to red, which I can do just by using the font colour button, because that is the contents of the cell. It just happens to be a circle generated from a particular font as opposed to a letter or number. What I also want to do is select cell B1 and hide that circle. Now I can't just delete the circle because it'll then delete the contents of column D. So if I want to hide the circle in B1, just because I don't need it displayed, then I can go and apply a hidden format, which we've covered this before, but bring up your list of formats, go to more number formats, select custom, and enter 3 semicolons in that box there, and that just hides the contents of column B. I also want to make sure the grid lines are hidden, which they are. They're already hidden. By default, of course, they're not hidden. Grid lines are displayed. But in this example, I want to hide the grid lines. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is insert a picture. So if I go to insert pictures from stock images and search for soccer, there's quite a number of pictures there to choose from, but that is the one I'm going to go for. So I'll select that and click on insert. What that does is it gives me that image, which looks very much like Cristiano Ronaldo. I don't know if it is, but it definitely looks like him. I'm then going to move the picture and resize the picture and can't take it full screen, because of course the thing with Excel is it's this huge grid, but I'm going to fill as much of my screen as possible. Now I can't move the picture into the background. Okay, the picture has to stay where it is. It can't, I mean, you can put the picture in the background. So if I just delete it, what I can do is I can go to page layout background, and then I can do a similar thing. I can pick a picture. Oh dear, I haven't got that football picture there, but I do have a unicorn from the last time I was doing a demo. But what it will do is it will repeat that image X number of times. The number of times will depend on how big the image is. And obviously the unicorn was a very small image. So I'm not going to do it that way, because it tiles it. Unless you can find the right size image that's basically full screen, it's going to tile it, which I don't want to do. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to insert a picture from the stock images. You can use any image, but I might as well use one of the stock images that actually comes with Excel in the latest versions of 365, and then just make it bigger. So what I'll have to do, I think I made it a bit too big there. Let's just make it a little bit smaller. What I'll have to do to sort of hide it into the background is to change its transparency. So if I click on it and I go to picture format, there's transparency. Now you can use one of these predefined transparencies. So I'll take it to 80%, or I can go to picture transparency options and I can set my own transparency there. Let's try 90%. So that, that means that we can see the actual image, but it's faded enough into the background that we can actually see what we are wanting to see, which is the number of red circles. Now, what I now want to do is I actually want to change the symbol. So instead of using red circles, I'm going to use a football instead. So if I go to B1, except I can't click on B1 because the picture is in the foreground. So what I'll need to do is I'll actually need to move the picture out of the way. This is the only way you can do this. Move the picture out of the way, then click on B1. And what I'll do on B1 is I'll go to Insert Symbol, and I'll change the font to, and this is the one that I never know how to say, Sego. Do you know how to say it?
Oh, the font?
Yeah. Is it Sego? Sego?
I always thought it was Sago, like pudding, but maybe not.
I've got a story about that for tomorrow night.
Oh, good.
Sago pudding. Sego UI symbol is the one I want.
That's a Microsoft font.
Yeah. Okay, so Sego UI symbol, and for the subset, it's miscellaneous symbols. I haven't got miscellaneous symbols unless I just don't see it, because they're not in alphabetical order. No, I don't see. Oh, there it is, miscellaneous symbols and arrows. Okay, I want to select there should be a football one in here. If I can't find it, I will use the football. I'll use that football one from the recently used symbols, because apparently unicorns don't play football, so I'm not going to use the unicorn one. Okay, insert that, but what I do need to do is get rid of the other circle. Now these of course now look very strange because they're not the right font. So what I'll do here, first of all, I will change that to 16 points. That's not showing up because I set that to be hidden with the 3 semicolons. But what I'll do here is I will then pick the same font, which is Sego EA or Sego. Sego UI symbol, wasn't it?
You know, I call it Arial and everybody else calls it Ariel.
Or Ariel. Sego. Other washing powders are available as well. There we go. So let's now drag that back, and voila. So if I wanted to hide these, of course, I can hide those. And I'm now, actually I don't want to hide all of them, do I? Because now I can't see what they relate to. But I could hide the column with the numbers in. And there we go. There is my little infographic, which shows what percentages of a particular set of skills are required to be a football great. I don't have many of those skills, but I do a mean unicorn. Okay, are you ready?
I am. You keep your eye on that, that'll be fine.
Okay, I will pass back to you.
Right, okay.
See what I did there? Pass back.
Oh, neatly done, Mike. Neatly done. Right, I need to get back to there first. Right, let's get back to there first while I get something keyed up over here. Because I need to go backwards now in my presentation. Oh, no. Come on. Right, poor Carol. Poor Carol. Right, let's get that going again. And then I can switch to that and it'll all be fine. It will. Right. Come on. Right, this time we really are creating patterns in Affinity Designer. But we have now ascertained that that was exactly what Carol wanted, which was this kind of pattern. If things were moving, it would be good. Not particularly the pattern in the middle, but what Carol sent me an image and a link to the website, and it's stitches. So the bit in the middle where I've put patterns, the actual stitches would be, and then the pattern around the edge is like the material. Do I sound like I know what I'm talking about with needlework?
Of course.
Yeah, right. I did do some needlework, I'll have you know.
I did needlework, yeah.
I gave it up when I was 6. They tried to make me do it again, but I went out and did bricklaying.
We actually
instead.
had a piece of cloth with holes in it, a bit like that thing that you're showing.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you did your stitching.
You did your cross stitching, did you?
Mrs. Smith.
Mine was Mrs. Roddy, and she was lovely. She was really nice. So now we've reminisced. Let's go and have a look at actually creating the thing. It's not as easy as you would think. Oh no, there's always a gotcha, isn't there? Right, I'm going to make a new board here, and I'm going to make one that's 500 pixels square. So, first off, to be a pattern, it works far better if it is equal in terms of pixels. So I'm going to make this 500 square. And that should be fine, but I want it on an artboard, so I'll make an artboard while we're at it. So this is going to be the pattern. So, things to think about. Now, you can't see the pattern at the moment, can you? But I can see the pattern. If I get craft up, you might be able to see the pattern, because I put it in there. So, are we in there? We are. Let's get the pattern so you can see the pattern, and let's work out what the problem is with the pattern. Right, that's now down there somewhere. Oh, it's on my desktop. Right, let me get to the Finder. Let's get to the desktop and have a look at it. Right. The tricky part with that is what? I wonder what Carol found tricky. Well, if you look at it, it looks simple. It's like, oh, well, you're going to have 4 pieces for the fabric, and then you just need some shadow underneath it somehow. It'll be fine. And then you look at it again and you think, hang on a minute. No, it won't. Because if you look at the top, the left quadrant, you've got the fabric at the very top. And that's going from left to right. But when you look at the second quadrant, the top right, it's going the other way. So it's not as easy as it would look. And what I mean by that is, let's leave that out of the way for a comparison. Right, what we would need to do is think, right, let's create the first thing. What do we need to do with this? So I'm going to create the weave, which is this bit. I don't want you to move. I'm just going to drop that in, and I'm actually going to type in, because it needs to be precise for this to work. So we need 125 by 250, which would give us 1 piece, but obviously we need it more than that. So let's get that in like that. We've got that piece that we would need. And where was I actually putting that? I was needing another copy of that over there. And then the thing is, and you need some more, hang on, and you need to rotate it. And at this point you think that's absolutely fine, but it's not going to be fine, is it? No, because at this point, if we put a border on that so we can actually see it, let's just put a stroke around the outside. That actually at the moment doesn't look bad, but how are we going to get the other bits in it? Because when we come down to this bit here, it's not going to match. We are going to have problems in terms of what's on the top and what's on the bottom. If you think, well, on this one, I want this one to be on the top. And you can do that. You can bring it up the stacking order. And then it's on top of both of them, and that was the problem. So the trick is building it in pieces, not like that. So let's get rid of these and let's go back to having just 1 piece. And the size it needs to be is 250 because you need to build it in the quadrants. So it's 250, meaning if we rotated that, it's half the size. So we know where to actually put that. In fact, pieces wise, you need to be absolutely certain where the pieces need to go. Oh, it gets trickier still, doesn't it? So I'm going to rotate that one backwards and you'll get the idea of where all these pieces need to go. Oh, it is, it's complicated. Right, and then we would move that one down and now the pieces are in the right place. So I needed 3 pieces to make sure that those pieces were in the right place. Basically, this one needs to be 250 pixels down and this one needs to be 250 pixels in, so it's a square. So that's the first thing to think about. Is that actually a square? And by taking it across there in a duplicate, we can see it does actually fit and we've got a grid. Now, would that we had finished at that point. But to give it the depth, let's have a look at what we're trying to achieve. To give it the depth, we need to have another shape in providing the shadow. But we're almost there, aren't we? It's not bad. These are quite difficult to work with at this stage because it's like, well, where would that go and how do I sort the stacking order out? And over here, of course, it's getting complicated. So luckily, there's a much faster way to work with this, which we'll sort out when we fix the first bit, which is let's concentrate on these bits here. This cross, we will make those a different colour so you know which ones we're talking about. So in the colour, let's make that something bright like that. Not too bright. Right, these are the ones that we're working with. In fact, let's change the colour of one of them so you can tell which one's at the top and which one's below. And then work out the rest. So the next step is to make sure that you've got the shadow in the right place. So where's the shadow coming from? Well, what I did was I took a rounded rectangle and I drew it out so it filled where they crossed, where they intersected. I don't need a border on it, which I've got at the moment because I had a stroke on it before, but we'll take that off. And the best thing to do is to put a colour in it that is almost what you want for your shadow. And you might not know initially, but you can change all of this later. So at this stage, and again, to make it a little bit easier, what I'm going to do, what are you doing? Yeah, I'm pressing the right buttons, you're just not listening. Right, I'm going to take those and turn them off so they don't get in the way. All we're interested in is these 3 shapes, getting them in the right stacking order to show the shadow in the right place. Then we can colour everything. Okay. Now, for this to be a blur, we need to have an effect on it. So we have the FX button, and the top one of these is the Gaussian or Gaussian, depending on how you say it, blur. So put a tick in the box and up the ratio until it starts to blur. So you can have it really blurry, not quite so blurry. At this point, we're not going to be able to tell, not without moving it down the stacking order. So where did we need to see the shadow coming from? Which is why constantly referring back to this. The shadow on the left-hand quadrant is going up and down, not left to right. So what we need to do, we need to bring up the top piece to sit over the top, and we've dragged it out. Come on. Go on, you can do it. You can do it. Up there like that. Oh, you keep dragging it out. What's the matter with you? Come on. Right, let's put it there. And I'm so much better with a keyboard. Right, there we go. So, if that isn't enough, then all you need to do is grab what is going to be the shadow and change the blur on it. Either make it blurrier so it comes out more, or leave it where it was and make it darker. And that will darken it as you go. You can have it all the way over here, but that doesn't look good. So about that point, I think would be reasonable. That's actually it. Apart from, that's the theory of it anyway. Apart from changing these and making them the right colour, which I will do by bringing this on. and I will select it. Oh, that's not going to work, is it? It's going to need to be off screen. I wanted you to see it, but I'm going to pick it up from there. But for that, I need to have it off screen, otherwise I'm going to lose it. Drag and drop. Colour goes in the colour well, and apply it. And we have virtually what we need. Virtually what we need. Now, I had already added, hadn't I, all of the other pieces, because you think that's the way to do it. I need 4 quadrants. Now I've got to juggle. Oh no. If we're going to do it that way, I've got one piece of shadow. Great, I'll copy it. I'll paste it and I'll move it sideways and up. And then once I've grabbed hold of it, I'll put it over here and everything will be fine. So let's get it over there. It's bang in the middle. But one of these pieces, don't know which one now, that one, is going to need to be above it for it to work correctly. Are we above it? It's clearly the other piece that's above it. Right, let's go and get that piece. That one there is going to need to be above it. And so ensues hours of playing around with this, making sure that everything is in totally the right place to have that working. And in here, it becomes a mess. And down the line, future you will not thank current you. Future you will say bad words. And it can get even more complicated than that. But you know, there's no need to do all of that. There's an easier way. You're going to love this. Let's just get rid of everything else, because we've got one and it's right. So if we grab that and we make a group of it, we now have quadrant 1. So that's Q1. We now take a copy of that. We put that there. That's not right, because it looks like that goes across. Again, refer back to what we need. The shadow needs to be left to right. Well, that's really simple, isn't it? Let's just flip it round. Oh, this is easier. It means that each quadrant is in a separate group before you start. And I happen to know that that one there, if I duplicate that down to there, and I take that one and I duplicate that down to there, we've got what we want. Or have we? Ah, Renee's ahead of me. Don't spoil the punchline, Renee. Right, that is one way to do it. That's a manual way to do it. But, as Renee has pointed out, well, that's one way, Renee. What about the other one? There are 2 ways to make this work easier than that. And what I would do if I'd done it this way, you know, if you want to do it the manual way, go in and number the quadrants and then you're good to go. But there are 2 ways to make this much faster. Much faster. Right, let's have a look what the problem is. Well, there isn't actually a problem if you're happy with that. If you're never going to want to change it, then you don't need to worry about it. Just use that. But if you're going to want to use this pattern for different things, or maybe as a base for different things, then let's start thinking clever. All right? You forgot what you said. Never mind, Renee. Right, first thing you can do. All right, over here. Let's say in here, I open up quadrant 4. And I've got these 2 pieces. And I'd like to change the colour. That's simple. Unfortunately, I've got to do it for every one of these shapes. That's not good. That's time consuming, and we don't want that. So the first thing you could do, and I would recommend that you did this anyway, is to think about global colours, which we've talked about. If you go to add global colour, you can set up a global colour. So if we call this the cloth, let's put cloth in. Right. We have a document palette. There are different types of palettes. There are, in the Mac version, document palettes, application palettes, and system palettes. You do not have system palettes in the Windows version, but you do have document palettes. Okay. Right. What I'm going to do with that is, at the moment, it's black. So if I'm down here and I get my 2 shapes, and I do that, they're going to be black, which isn't going to work, is it? But if I open that up and think, right, what kind of colour do we want? And we wanted it quite pale, didn't we? Orangish. and probably not mustard. But if we bring this along a bit, or we could do it the clever way and drag that, choose that, and say, yeah, the same as that. Okay. Right. That one is fine. What we now do is double click on this, and if we want to change it, it's only changing that first one in the first quadrant because we didn't have, so let's undo that. We didn't go through all of these, so you'd have to open all of these up and choose these pieces and then recolour them all. Now it can be done, you can see me doing it now. You've just got to make sure that you grab all the pieces. So let's open up one, and now we've got all the pieces, and just apply that colour. Doesn't look like anything's changed. But if you go into this colour and you edit the fill, the whole thing will change. Oh, joy of joys. Who doesn't want it green? A lovely mint green. Right. So that's the first way of doing it. That would mean if you ever need to change the colour, it's easily done. The second way to do it is better because what we didn't do here was change the shadow. What if you wanted to change the shadow? Well, of course you can grab the individual pieces and you could make changes to those. So you could change the colour, etc. But what if you wanted to change the actual Gaussian blur on it? Well, you can open this up, and it does open up, and it is off the screen. It's over here. But we can take that up, and it does apply to all of them. So not too bad, but still pretty manual. So a better way of doing it entirely is to scrap what we've done and think again. But that's one way if you're happy with doing it that way. What I'm going to do here is we're going to leave quadrant 4. Have we got quadrant 4? Right, let's go back to quadrant 4 up here. Right. Of course you can put your site in. Why not? Right, so what I'm going to do with this one is say, right, is that as right as I need it to be? And apart from the fact that the colour's not really right, so I'll go grab the colour again and make sure that this time it is right. And we've also got a problem at this point that our shadow has disappeared. Why has our shadow disappeared? And that's because we've applied a different colour to it. But if we take it back to be our shadow, it's perfect. Right. At this point, name that what it is, which is it's a quadrant. Doesn't matter which one. And this one is the left to right. You don't have to go down to this level if you don't want. But that one is the top to bottom. Okay. Actually, knowing what I'm about to do, I probably wouldn't do that. I would probably just leave these as untitled because they're not going to be left to right and top to bottom when we finish with them, but they are at the moment. But this quadrant that we've got, if we could just magically make that into a symbol, we'd be fine. So make sure the symbol panel is showing, which is go to View, Studio, and make sure that you have symbols turned on at the bottom. We have done symbols before. A symbol is like a cookie cutter. So I'm going to create one based on what I've got selected, and there is my quadrant. Right, I can even delete that at that point if I want to, because I can bring these pieces on. Now I am going to have exactly the same problem that I had originally when I was duplicating things and playing around. That when I bring them on, they're not exactly right, are they? This one needs to go left to right, so I'm going to flip that round. Hold the shift key down, make sure it flips properly. And take this one and flip that round. And now we have a pattern. Why go to all that trouble? Well, I can now open up any of these and make a change either to a global colour, but even if it wasn't a global colour, even if I just said I wanted this horrible colour here, the one that I've got selected, the one piece, changes in all of them. Obviously, I would have to choose the other piece to change the colour, but you could do that. I would stick with the global colours. I just think global colours are a better way to go with that. But it does mean that with the shadow, if you decide, you know what, that shadow is really bad, could I have that a different colour? A blue one, or maybe that one, or maybe jet black. I'm changing one piece and everything is updating, irrespective of the fact it's not a global colour, because this is for the shadow. Right? Symbols will save you so much time, it will be unbelievable. Right, I think that one is deepen. A deeper one is probably better. Right, at that point, you've got your pattern. So you've got your 4 quadrants making up your pattern. What I'm going to do with it is then export it. So into the export persona, and there's my pattern. I'm going to make sure that it's a PNG, and I'm going to export that to the desktop or wherever. Yes, we'll put it on the desktop. Okay, there's our pattern on the desktop. Right, make sure, of course, that that is saved. So, pattern. Right, and then I'm going to get a new file. One of the sizes I use a lot is 1280 by 720. And that's because I do a lot of slide work. So I'm going to put in there an artboard for it, and I'm going to put in something in terms of a shape. So let's say I want something like this. So I've got a shape and I want to fill it with the pattern that I've just created. Okay. So what I need to do is create the shape, get the fill tool, which is this one, looks like a rainbow down the bottom. And you can choose the type of fill you have. Now at the moment there is a fill in there. And if I was to do this, that fill would change. But it's solid at that point. You also have in here radial gradients and all kinds of things. Don't look particularly great in those colours. But you can change how that looks. That's not good. There we go. There's a nice gradient. And you can change that, how that actually looks in here. But in addition to solid fills and gradients and all the rest of it, this gradient, this fill tool, will let you choose a bitmap. And it will ask you, where is that? And I have got pattern and I've got weave, which was the one I created today. That one by the look of it. So I will use pattern and I will open it. And there is the pattern. Doesn't look great. That's because you've got this L shape here. That L shape is determining the size of that and its placement. So I can make you giddy. Whee! If you want it straight, hold the shift key down. When you hold the shift key, see it zooming in and out because you're constraining it and you're moving those handles up and down. So how I made that slide was just literally do that. And I then had a background for the slide. So I'm actually using the pattern. Now, from what Carol said or implied with the picky that I looked at, there needs to be like a gap in the middle. And you wouldn't have it that tight because it's not that type of thing. But to put a gap in the middle, if we just put a square on that and give that a fill, but not a bitmap fill, we need to go back to a solid fill, then you've punched a hole in it, in essence, so you can put your stitching in it. And this, of course, remains editable, so you can put that wherever you need it to be. So, hopefully, that means that Carol can redo her graphics and we can all admire them on her website. But that's not where the story ends. That's just where the Affinity Designer story ends. If you're not doing what Carol's doing and have a need for a particular pattern like that, there's still 2 other ways that you can use this. Oh, thank you, Carol. You're amazing. Thank you. There's 2 other ways that you can use this, and that is in your presentations. So I'm actually, as you well know, so I'm just going to save that file. Yes, that'll be fine. All right, and come out of there. Because we have all we need on the desktop in terms of this pattern that it's struggling manfully to upload. That's the source file. And that's the file we've just saved. So this is the one we're interested in. Right, this lot, not interested in. We're interested in that pattern one. So I'm going to get rid of those into the data folder. And we're going to concentrate on that. For that, we need PowerPoint, and PowerPoint's already running with my presentation in it. So I'm going to come out of PowerPoint. I'm going to make a new PowerPoint file. And I'm going to change the layout so it's totally blank. All right. I'm going to make that so we can see the background here. There's the pattern we're working with. And what we need to do here, you've got 2 options. You can either use it as the background or you can put a shape on it. Right, so you might want this for only part of it, but if you wanted it for all of it, it doesn't particularly matter. You can just draw the shape on like that. What you need to do with this is then bring up the format panel for images here. And the image has well, the shape has this fill option. In the fill option, you get to choose what type of fill you want. Okay. So in here, you would think to go for pattern fill, but don't, because that means a built-in pattern from Photoshop, from PowerPoint, and they're not good. Leave them alone. Oh, good grief. Better off with no fill than that fill. But you also have picture or texture fill, which I don't think implies pattern, but trust me, it does. So I'm going to click on it. And the default is this kind of cloth thing here. But you can choose a source for that. What I do every week in the presentation with the football scores, that actually sits on the background of a slide. So what I do with it is drag it in that, and I then cut it to my clipboard. And then when I go to picture or texture fill, I can just click on clipboard. That's a bit naughty. And it should have done it, but it didn't look like it did. What's going on? We don't want that. That should definitely have worked. No, it didn't. Right, let's go and choose a source and see if that makes any difference. Okay, let's try this one. No, it's not. I think it's because it's got some kind of texture on it, and I don't want it to have a texture on it. So I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to come all the way back out of there, completely, to that point. Right, and we'll do that again. Okay, so picture or texture fill, and put it in from the clipboard. Now, it's not good. It's stretched, and we certainly don't want it to look like that. We don't have the flexibility in that, as it looks like, as we do in Designer. But it's the options that make the difference. You can tile the picture as texture, for a start. You can set an offset, but more importantly is scaling it. So if I put in 20%, then it starts to look more like we had in Designer. If I change that to 15%, even more so. You can, so if you look at this, it doesn't look bad, but it's not equal. So at the top, we've got, we don't have one of the lines going left to right. We've got like the little bits hanging off, but at the bottom, we've got the line going left to right. And also over here, this one has the bits hanging off, but over here, it's got the line. That's what the offset is for. So you can offset in one direction just to make sure that it matches. So that's about right. And if we try this offset, we need to get rid of that, and that's about right. So they're not even the same offset, but what we've done is even it up so it actually looks right. So back up here. Other things that you can do, you can mirror it depending on whether that makes sense with it or not. And you've got this ability to have it rotate with the shape. So if you were rotating the shape, it would actually rotate with it. But if you take that out of it, it keeps the pattern straight. So you'd use something like that maybe if you wanted to create some kind of artistic effect. And that is what you can do with it in PowerPoint. Okay. Save that before it gets giddy with itself. That'll do. Close that down. And the other thing to look at is Keynote. So let's get Keynote up. Let's blow the dust off Keynote. It's been a while. And it's opened up on the other screen, but I'm just going to make a new file, and I'm going to use my basic one, which is just it's black and white. It's really basic. Right, let's take that full screen. Right, in here, similar process. What I'm going to do is let's move this across, otherwise I'm not going to be able to see it. Right, you've got two ways of working in here. You can have it in the background, or you can have it in a shape. Doesn't matter which one we go for, but to keep in step with what we did in the other one, let's put that in there. And what I used to love doing in here, going in here and putting in the size that I want it, and make sure it's 0 and 0, and it is. Right, so there's the actual item. Right, in the style of the shape, which is what we're looking at here, you have different types of fill. You've got no fill, colour fill, gradient, advanced gradient, image and advanced image. Right, it is either image fill or advanced image fill. Possibly fractionally easier to just drag and drop that. And then of course you can scale that It's got scale to fit. What we would need is tile, and then you can scale that to your heart's content. There is no offsets in here though, but you can do it. Don't think you've got the option for not having it rotate either that you have in PowerPoint. It's going to rotate with it. However, that isn't where the story ends inside Keynote. So I'm going to get rid of that shape and totally start again with a shape. So we'll do exactly the same and fill it. 20, there we go. Right, in the style, I'm going to do almost the same, but this time I'm going to choose Advanced Image Fill. And the reason that looks so different is it's kept the fill that we specified before, but it's also put on it in here. So if we go for that one, that's more like the default. You have the ability not only to tile it and scale it, but also apply a tint to it, which means you can get a totally different effect just from in here. Maybe to show different sections of something, if you're doing different demonstrations, something like that. I think that is actually quite handy. That is very handy. And if it's a little bit too much, then you can change the opacity as well. So that's using your pattern elsewhere. But Carol, does that solve your problem? Or are you busy headed off to do it now? I can send you that file if you want, and it'll have all the symbols in it and everything that you need. Okay, we'll do a quick save on that just in case. Get rid of it. And head off to the next thing, which I think is freebies, isn't it? Oh, and I've got some good freebies this week. Oh, I do. Let's get that up. Right, you may have noticed that I've created some new thumbnails for my speed dial. They look like this. So that poster that you see there is actually in my speed dial, and it takes me to YouTube Studio. And I've also got one for the channel, and I've got one for my playlists. And my issue with it was I needed the YouTube artwork. You are very welcome, Carol. It does. Excellent. Of course, I'll send it to you. No problem at all. I need the YouTube artwork, which will give me the logo and the word YouTube. But underneath it, I wanted to add some text and have it kind of match. But when I used the font, the YouTube font, the top one, it was too much. But I think that font fits it. And there is a reason that it fits it. So that's what I needed to do with it. And where you need to go is if you go to the URL that's coming up shortly, you will get the YouTube branding kit. And instead of Googling and getting something that's really poor quality and all pixelated, you can download the full SVG version, the vector version of their logos, and use them. Obviously, you've got to read the small print about using it, but you can do that. So there's an entire brand kit that is available on the website, which is youtube.com/about/brand-resources. That got me halfway. That got me to the point that I had the YouTube logo. The next thing I needed was a font. And YouTube have created their own font called YouTube Sans Dark. And the one that fitted best was the extra bold. And that fitted nicely underneath. You can get that at fontspace.io/YouTube-sans-font-download. And I thought that worked perfectly. That was just what I needed. So both of them are totally free. And go and make your speed dials. Right, I'm going to head into Mastering the macOS Finder. It's the last one. It's the last part on the Finder. Next time, I'm going to start looking at other applications, and I have a voucher for 20% off one of them. So let's head off and look at the macOS Finder. What was left to look at? Well, on my list was the Go button. That sits there, and I don't know how many people actually use it. My primary use of it, because I do know the shortcut keys, so I can get to my downloads folder, I can get to my desktop, I can get to documents, not that I ever use it 'cause it's in iCloud. But those shortcuts are worthwhile remembering. But the best use for this is to get to your library folder. which used to be just sat there saying click me, and go to the library folder. And a good few iterations of macOS previous, it disappeared. And we were all up in arms, but how do I get to my library folder? And the answer is, with that menu, so I'm not touching the mouse, with that menu selected, if you tap and hold the Option key, your library folder becomes available. Let go, disappears. Option key. If there's ever anything missing from a menu in an Apple app, just hold the Option key and see what happens. And if I then click on that, it will take me straight out to the library folder. Now, the library folder is in your user folder. But the problem is, if you go up to that, you can't actually see it because it's a hidden folder. So that is by far the fastest way to get to it. Go, hold the Option key, tap library. But obviously available from the Go command, you've got all the other options as well. So let me know in the chat how many people use that. Do you ever use the Go menu and go to recent and stuff like that? Bet you don't, do you? He's pondering.
Occasionally.
No, occasionally. The one that I use a lot.
I use that one.
I go to the applications folder, but I don't. I never use the Go menu for that because it's Command Shift and A, and that takes your application folder.
I use the sidebar.
And I know that all the time. I took mine off the sidebar because I thought, the shortcut, woman, leave it be. You don't need it there, wasting space. And that was fine until you come to install software and it wants you to drag and drop it to the applications folder and isn't polite enough to give you a shortcut to it. So then I thought, you know what, just put it back. Let's just put it back where it came from and leave it be, which I did. The other option that you've got available from in here is you can go to your recent folders and it would list off your recent folders, or you could go to a folder and it's opened it up on the wrong page, which is not helpful. Let me get the Finder window up and bring it over here. Right, if we use the go to folder, you can use that. So that was my downloads and I went to that folder. It's got all of the other ones that I've used. That's no use. Alfred is just a million times better than that, so I never use that either. But it is there when you remember to go to the library that way. I'm in the library quite a bit, so that is something that I did internalise. The other option that you've got up here is to connect to a server. And this you may use, I don't use it that often, but you may use that if you are trying to connect to an iPad. Sometimes on an iPad, like an app like GoodNotes, will give you a URL and say go to this URL. And one good way to do it, it'll be something like 192.168.1.1. And you can type it straight in there. If you have connected to that because you do it constantly, taking data backwards and forwards from your iPad, then you can have it, that will show up as a favourite server as well. And or you can browse for them. But as I say, I don't even use that much because most apps are better than that these days. Many years ago, you had to do that and there was no alternatives. Right, let's bring this on, which just happens to be my Dropbox. Right, other things you can do. You have some, now this is Dropbox, so I'm going to get different options. So I'll go to my data in here. There we go. I've still got Dropbox options, because that's in Dropbox, isn't it? I don't want to be in there. I don't want to be... Oh, that won't do either. Everything's in the cloud. When did this happen? Okay, now let's say a local folder. Right, there's a local folder. And that's not a local folder at the moment, but it will be. So I will drag that over here and I will get that into a local place out of harm's way where we can see it and work with it. There we go. There is a local folder. It really is a local folder. Right. And I've got nothing in here at the moment. But now on my right click, I have a couple of options that you may or may not have explored. There is a good option here to import from an iPhone or an iPad. And as you can see, I've got a lot of toys. There's a lot of toys kicking around. Right, I'll grab my phone, which obviously is MacBites Siri, and I will take a photo. You're okay to be viewed, aren't you?
No.
Oh, you don't want to be viewed?
Lola could be.
No, well, she's in pitch black. Oh, no, actually, that might work. Right, okay, we'll do Lola then. So what we've got here is the ability to take a photo. So I will tap on take photo and it says use your camera. So what's happening on my phone is that it's turned the camera on automatically. And Lola's image rights, we'll just take a photo.
It was very good of you to ask about my image rights.
You don't need image rights. Okay, I've taken it. It doesn't work great in the dark, I'll tell you. If I took a photo, it would. But with this system, it didn't click into nighttime. But you'll get the idea. So we'll use the photo, and that automatically comes through to the Finder. And then we'll have a look at her ladyship. As I say, it didn't turn night mode on properly, but she's well away, isn't she? She's snoring as well. She's well away. So that is something that you can do. Now, for an image, I never remember. I think I'll just take a picture of that and then I'll put it in there, and that's what I do. It's probably more use for the documents. So when you've got import from, you've got the photo, but you've also got the ability to scan a document, which means it will come in black and white, or add a sketch. And all of this is happening through the Finder. So I thought that that was worth mentioning. How many people use that? Let me know. Oh, Carol said not used Dropbox for ages, but today needed to go there and decided to clean it up. Found a video of my dog when she was a puppy. Oh, that's so cute. I took two approaches with cloud services. One was I'm going to organise the life out of this, and then that got old fast. So then on Google Drive, I just put a folder that was like everything and put everything in it. And for years, I did not organise it. And then in 2018, when I switched to Google Drive and Google Calendar, tidied the whole thing up. Not looked back since. Love it. So those are just a few options that you've got from your devices. Does anybody use that? Does anybody use that? Oh, Paul uses Command-Shift-G to open the go-to folder dialog. It's about the only folder you go to via that method. How do you get the option to show yours are greyed out? Oh, when you say greyed out, do you see a device listed? If a device is available, it will be listed there. Now, are all my iPads available? I think they are. So I'm at my desk. My iPads are right next to me in a rack, and my phone is in my hand. So I'm close to the computer. You might need to do some incantations, making sure they're on the same network, etc. But they should just appear. The names are dimmed out, but the options underneath are not dimmed out. So hopefully you'll be able to sort that out. If it helps, your phone is switched on. If the phone is switched on and it's on the same network as your computer, and all the other incantations are correct, it should just appear. There's no management that you can actually do. So it should just appear. Try putting them closer together. Oh, hey, I've heard worse in terms of is something turned on or not. I remember trying to troubleshoot why this monitor was dead at one company. Trying to do it over the phone because I didn't want a 30-mile trip to have a look at it. And we ascertained, I said, you know, like, she said, I know it's just dead. There's no power to it. The light isn't coming on. I said, is it plugged in? And she said, well, it was working yesterday. Turned out the cleaner had unplugged it overnight. So once I got her to crawl under the desk, it was fine. So telling me it's turned on, that's not as ridiculous as you would imagine, honestly. Right, I have some files that we're going to be working with that are in the data in here. We're going to be renaming them. But at the moment, I've got all of these files. And if you want to make a quick zip file with them, right-click and compress. And it's a standard zip file. There are other ways to do that. That's probably the fastest even on here. The one thing you can't do anymore, and I wish you could, is change the icon that's associated with the whole thing. Because it's using this, the icon that I prefer is actually lime green. And it was because, and then I went from red, I think, to lime green. It was the default for the archiver utility. And it just meant that my zip files stood out. You could see them from across the room. And I loved that. But I've not fiddled with it since. It broke and I didn't go back and fiddle with it. Obviously, unzipping is incredibly straightforward. You just need to double click it and that will unzip it. Right. One thing that I've noticed not many people do is, let's say you've got a file like this file here, and you don't want people to make any changes to it. It's a reference file, and you know, like we've said, you open up a file and before you know it, you've changed it. Obviously, if I were to double click on that file, it would open it up and I could make some changes. Changed the text, and I save it, and we've got a saved, changed file. But what if you don't want that to inadvertently happen? And it might not be you, it might be a spouse or a child. Well, if you bring up your Get Info dialog, you have two options in there that we're going to look at. One of them is locked. So I just put a tick in locked. In the Finder, we actually get a lock on that I can't see because it's trying to synchronize. And why is it not synchronizing? I'm getting some problems with that. Right, what I'm going to do is we will take a copy of that lot and we will go to the local folder. Didn't we have the local folder? We did. There we go. Let's paste the whole shebang in there. Right, what I'm trying to show you is, and we're not seeing it in that view, and that's sad, but there is a lock icon just down there. It's that tiny, you can't see it, but it's that grey dot is telling you that that file is locked. So when I open that file, don't make a liar out of me. Right? Do you want to overwrite the write protected file? So you will be told this is a locked file, are you sure? Which I think is a really neat feature. That is kind of cool. I used to use it more than I use it now, but only because if I think about where my data is now, little random notes that used to be in text files are in Drafts or Notion or Craft or Roam. And I instinctively know which one of those it would be in. So I don't particularly do this anymore, but that's kind of useful. So I could say there, no, I don't. Then it says I can't save it. No, that's because I don't want you to save it. Right, so that's locking it. The other thing that you've got is the ability, and it won't really make that much sense here. Where did we have? We put it in data, didn't we? We did. And is that our pattern? I do believe that's our pattern. Let's just have a look at it. Not that one. There's our pattern. So what I'm going to do is bring this where you can see it. So I'm going to put a copy of the file that's going to wing its way to Carol, the Affinity designer file. All right, let's say that that's our starting point. I could open that, I could edit it, and I could save it. And we know now that one option is to lock it. But there is another option, and it's like making something a template. So if I bring up the info again, and this time a stationery pad. And a stationery pad, as the name implies, makes that a template. Now, this was what I used to do before Affinity Designer actually had proper templates in it. Now it has proper templates, I use those. But a quick way to make sure that if I ever want to make any changes to this file, as soon as I double click it to open it, it makes a copy of it and it opens the copy. So the name at the top includes copy, which means that the other one is not being edited. It's a safe file. Stationery pads are fabulous for applications that don't support internal templates. That's really where the strength of them lies. Graham's using stationery options for Pixelmator templates. Good idea. Good idea. About time they actually had templates, isn't it? Been a while. Right. I don't know if you're aware that you can remap what opens a file. So this is just a text file and my default is Sublime Text. But if I bring up the info again, you can see that this opens with Sublime Text. But if I wanted this to open with BBEdit, I could just do that and change it. Technically speaking, depending on what mood it's in, if I now double click that, oh, it doesn't like that. What on earth? No, it didn't. Oh, maybe it did. Oh, he doesn't like that. That's strange. It's always worked before. What else have I got that can edit text that won't cause any grief? How about Pages? You want to open in Pages? Or maybe not, because that's Apple related as well. No, it doesn't like it. This is cancel or allow in operation. What it's saying with this is, it's a text file, but they're not prepared to let me open it because I've requested that an application open it that hasn't previously opened it. And at the bottom it's saying, can't verify the app is free from malware. Now, when you look at what app it's talking about, it's saying copy them. That's because I created all of these text files that we're going to work with shortly while Mike was doing his Excel stuff. So I copied and pasted them. And because of that, it's not playing ball. Right, there is a way to make this work. There's always a way to make this work. Let's open Sublime. And we'll get a totally new file. All right. Let's play with Apple's Mind. Right, so I'm going to save that file. I'm going to put that on the desktop. So we want that not in there. We want it in there. Right. And we'll just call it Apple's Mind.txt. Right, so we have a text file that was created with Sublime Text. This is not being created with something that the system doesn't like. But at the moment, we will bring that up. It's going to open with Sublime. It will open with Sublime if I open it. That's fine. Come out of Sublime. I want this particular file to open with BBEdit. Right, let's see if it's going to be in any more of a better mood. Right, now it's opening in BBEdit. So the problem with it was Apple's cancel or allow philosophy of if we don't like it, you're not opening it. Oh, and I've spelled Apple wrong. Ah, serves them right. Okay, so it does work. Right, other thing to think about. Instead of just having that particular file open with BBEdit, you could hit the button that says change all, and then all text files would open with BBEdit until you go back in and change it. Where I think the power of this lies, I mean, that's good as far as it goes, but I love the fact that on the Mac you can have files opening with different applications based on your preference. In Windows, it's all or nothing. But in here, you can be much more granular with it. So a handy thing to know. Handy thing to know, it doesn't work if you copy and paste the files as well. Thank you for that, Apple. Right, we have the last thing. The last thing, good grief. We have the option to rename files. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete that file because we locked that. Oh, does it not let me delete it if it's locked either? There you go, you can't delete it either. It bothers you. There we go, it's done. Right, so all of these files it should work absolutely fine with. So that was the lovely Lola. We'll put her on the desktop out of the way because we don't want her involved in the renaming that's going on here. You know that I have multiple applications to rename things, all for good reasons. So I have, the one I prefer at the moment is a Better Finder rename. And this is because it not only renames the files, so in this case, adding numbers onto it, etc. I'm adding a year onto the end. But it lets me save those presets. So I have a whole thing in here. Renaming newspapers, adding spaces, standard screenshots, after hours slides, inner screenshots. So if I show you the after hours slides, it's a whole thing going on where it produces a sequence number and puts a number in and then puts this in and then adds some digits onto it. It's quite advanced. The other option is Name Mangler, which has just acquired a shiny new icon. Very, very similar. Does exactly the same. But the thing is, with these applications, if you're not doing the advanced stuff, like actually putting in some script goes in there if you want to do that. There's actually some that are already in here. So do you want to put random stuff in? That's how you randomize it. If you want to trim the white space, it looks like that. So these are things, these are advanced. You can actually code the things. But if what you want is fairly basic, these files, can we just rename them so they make sense? I do create files like this where I end up with a copy of a copy of a copy. And how that actually happens is when I'm doing demo files and I need a copy of it, and then I end up with that kind of mess, which is not good. I've no idea where Mike's gone. He's disappeared again. Right, so I just want to do some basic renaming here. Do we have a technical problem?
Yeah.
What's our technical problem?
I can't connect it.
No, neither can I.
Machine.
And the mouse isn't working?
Didn't appear to be.
Have we got... It is, it's moving. It's moving.
Oh.
You're just not doing it right, Mike. Mike's got a technical problem with the mouse. Right, have you done it? No. Right, just get that dealt with. Right, okay. So we're going to name some files. This was added to the system. So you do have a rename option at system level in your Finder. And it's not bad. You've got 3 options. It starts with replace text. So if what I'm going to do with this is I'm looking for the word text and I want to change it to chat, then I can say look for text and replace it with chat and then rename the files. Works perfectly. Right, let's go back in again and do another rename. And in this case, I'm not going to rename by taking some text and changing it. I'm going to go into add text. So I could add here today's date in sort order like that and say at the beginning. So before the actual name, put the date and put an underscore and rename it that way. So I'm adding information to it. Now, these basic transformations, you know, yes, I can use the other apps, but this is just there and it's quick. Right, on the other one, we have rename. This time, I'm going to go for the third option, the nuclear option. Now, in here, you have the opportunity to change the name of the index. You can have a counter or you can have a date. I'll leave it set to name an index. Now, you can have before the name or after the name. Now, I looked at that and thought, what's before the name or after the name? What you talking about? But it's actually referring to the index number that it will give to the file. And it's giving you an example underneath. Are you still having problems there?
Yeah.
Well, just leave it because clearly you don't have to click it because it's been up there that long. Well, one day we'll explain what's going on here. Do you know that's the third mouse today that's been possessed? Mike's getting exasperated. And like I said, he's not had the best of weeks. Right, let's get back to renaming these files. We're going to rename them with the words text file at the front, followed by a space. Because we've selected after name here, the number will appear there at the end, hence the example text file 1. But what we'll end up with is text files 1 to 35, all named neatly and correctly. So we'll just hit rename. Not bad. It does sort alphabetically, so you do get your one at the top and stuff. It'd be nice if I could say how many numbers, which you can in the other applications. But for working quick, working on a client site, perfectly usable. Carol's predicting bad words. There are bad words in Mike's head. I can sense it. You know when you look at the back of your other half and you think, not in a good mood. Yeah, that. And I'm trying to make him laugh, but he's not having it, so that's even worse. Ah, he's gone. He's gone. Ah, right, okay. So we're all findered out at that point. That's probably about all your Finder can do for you. But it has been 4 weeks. There's been a lot of it. Everything from background colours to different views to renaming through everything else. Smart folders, saved searches. We've done a lot, an absolute lot. Right, I'm just pondering what time that is, because then that'll happen, and then I need to do that. Right, let's get back into here. So next week, we're looking at Pathfinder. Pathfinder being probably the #1 replacement application for the Finder, and it really can totally replace it, but I wouldn't recommend it. The good news is, because you might be thinking, why do I want to pay to replace the Finder? Well, for a start, it's in setup. So if you've got setup, you've already got it. If you don't have setup, there's a 20% off Pathfinder offer at the moment. I got the mail because I use default folder. And what they're saying is they work together perfectly. The code you will need is DFX2020, which Mike will post into the chat. It's only good for a limited amount of time. So if you're watching 6 months from now, my sincere apologies. Have a look round. It's definitely worth it. So that's what we'll be doing in our Finder series next week. So coming up, we have 129 next week. Same time, same place. We've kind of got a clue, really, haven't we, what we're doing? You know, we're doing Pathfinder, and I will see how far I can push the Notion API before I break down in tears. It's going to play with my mind. I know it is. But we'll
bad words.
Bad words will be said. Oh, they will. Because I realised I want an API, but can somebody else do the work? What I actually want is integrations. Just let me do that. That would be good. Anyway, on Sunday we have another Sunday session. It's still Mad May. It's getting madder by the minute. We have Mastering Textiles in Affinity Publisher. Oh, we do. 3 p.m. UK, 7 a.m. Pacific, and 10 a.m. Eastern. The week after that, we're doing Creating and Managing Assets in Affinity Publisher. Same time, same place, 23rd. And the week after that, we've got a build with me. Still haven't decided what, but when I do, I'll let you know. And then we've got what's available on demand. So our first one of Mad May was Deep Diving Data Merge. That is available on demand. And our second was Working with Images in Affinity Publisher, which was last weekend. Doesn't time fly? All that is available on demand you will find at youtube.com/Elaine Giles. And we do have an After Hours playlist, which many people catch up on a Saturday because they like the links. That's presupposing Mike can make it do the links, because that's why the bad words were said earlier today. Mike was trying to set it up to deal with the chat, and there were words I could not repeat in polite company, I can assure you. But you can get to that at macbites.co.uk/After Hours playlist. We are still Marooned at MacBites headquarters because we have far more sense than our Prime Minister, who says it's all going to be over by June. And I believe in America it's almost over bar the shouting. But we know better, and we know we'll just sit back and watch the third wave happen. Or fourth or fifth, depending on where you are. If you want to catch up, I need to do some catch up myself, which I'll endeavour to do. But the feed is at that URL, and you can get to that with that QR code. And all of that fun and games is at MacBites FM. We love you guys. If you love us, can you give us a like? It feeds the YouTube algorithm that I do have some severe questions about at times, but it does, and it would greatly help us out. Hence, give us a thumbs up. Right, we are sending out a lot of mails with links in, so you can get direct links to the parts of the videos that interest you, and they are going out via elainegiles.com/VIP. All our MacBites content goes out via macbites.co.uk/macbites-mail. And of course, we are in Slack 24/7 carrying on the conversation, and we would love it if you could join us. So it's macbites.co.uk/Slack. I saw in the chat, Elaine for the win. I did. So I'm going to do some magic at the other end, and we'll switch that over. That's what we'll do. Oh, it was a big week this week, wasn't it? I remember it now. Yep, all coming back to me. It was, I need that one there and not the timer. I was going into 20s, wasn't I? But I still say it's not too late for young Jonathan. He could put on a bit of a spurt here. So let me... Oh, what's gone on here? They've updated this. Don't update things. There we go. There we go. Oh, Paul loved the weave portion. That was a bit of a build with me, wasn't it? Because there's so many different ways to do it. And I was looking for the easiest way to make the thing editable in the future. So many times when you're doing something like that, it's like, I'll just throw it together, it'll be fine. And it is. You know, you use the pattern for what you want it to use it for. You never touch it again, no problem. But for something like Carol's doing on a website, where she's going to keep returning to it to do different stitches and may want different colours, I thought, let's do it properly. So that will be winging its way to you, Carol. Right, so... Did Jonathan go early? I think he might have done. But you know, they had him at work till after 9 o'clock. That's disgusting.
Not on that.
That's not on that, no. So good morning to you, Jonathan.
Especially on a Friday night.
On a Friday night, that's not on. But whatever he was doing, he said his colleagues couldn't be there. Oh, maybe he's putting like golden syrup on the chairs and stuff. Oh no, silly me, it's virtual. What's the equivalent of putting the golden syrup on the chairs virtually?
Cling film on the toilet.
Virtually. You're not in the office. Oh, I know what it could be. It could be hacking into their accounts and turning on their virtualization to the cat. Because that's Kim's favourite, the cat. That would be so cool. Oh. Hello, Matthew. Thank you. Elaine, you're an absolute star. You're very welcome. Glad you could join us. Oh, Sarah, what happened? Now, if that ever happens again, we have something turned on called, I can't remember for the life of me what it is called. Hang on, I'll have a look. I'll go into the YouTube control panel thing and we'll have a look. It's basically instant replay. So, you know, like you've got your TV at home and you can wind back. That is turned on. There is an option to turn it off, but I leave it turned on. So come on, was it that one? Where's all my window? Oh, it was that one. There we go. It's that one. One of these is controlling YouTube, and I wish I knew which one. Oh, there it is. It's that one there. Right, what's it called? What's this thing called that I left turned on? Oh, it doesn't tell you once you're broadcasting. That's not helpful. Oh, YouTube is not. But basically, it is automatic replay. So what you can do is there should be a rewind button on the video and you can wind it back. What Tracy does with that, pro tip from Tracy, is she takes it back to the beginning and then she presses play and then she presses 2 times. And her ears are assaulted by me at 2 times. She's a brave woman. Brave, brave woman is Tracy. Anyway, you could always do that. Your other option, of course, is to wait and then it'll be on replay after that. You are all very, very welcome. Thank you for your kind, kind words. Brooklands will be fun. Oh, we got some classics, Renee. Because when we said baking, I said Ma Baker. The Boney M track. But you know, there's many, many more that I hadn't even thought of. Not even thought of. But yes, it will be fun. And of course, you are all welcome to join us if you would like. If you have no idea of what we speak, it is brooklands196.com. It is a radio station that we started 2 and a bit years ago. Two years ago, where Mike was in charge of the Catenians, and we have a live music show. In fact, it's Music Saturday. There will be, I've no idea how many tomorrow because I've not done the segues yet, but I will do. Maybe 8 or 9 shows during the day, and they're like 1 hour or 2 hour specials. No adverts, no interruptions, just pure music. And then at 8 o'clock, when we've marooned, we head off and we do a 5-hour live music show. And then there's plenty of talk and plenty of laughter. And it is good, good fun. Dee says, Elaine, at 2 times, can it be done? Well, I wouldn't recommend it. But Tracy, you do say, don't you, because Kim says this too, once you've gone to more than 1 speed, there's no going back. So I put a video on earlier and I looked at the length of it and it was something like 34 minutes and I thought, I haven't got 34 minutes. And then I thought, as it started speaking, I thought, is this on the wrong speed? And I ended up watching it at 1.75 times and it finished in like 20 minutes. Oh, it's a great time saver. And it saved me a lot of time on books because I do that on Audible. Some of the narrations are so slow, it's unbearable. You can switch to 1.5 and not even notice, it just sounds normal. So I listen at anything between 2.5 and 3.5, which is about as far as you can go. But you do have to concentrate. So I don't know. Me at 2 times when you've got to watch the visuals as well, I think you're very brave. Don't I ever get a sore throat? Have been known to. But strangely enough, Carol, not during lockdown. So I've come to the conclusion, mixing with people physically, overrated. Let's just go virtual and be done, because neither of us have been ill. Touch wood. I did get 1 sore throat, didn't I? And I said to you, I think I'm getting a sore throat. And I took something called, what's that spray thing we've got? Difflam. Difflam spray. Diflam. And it nuked it, and I was fine. So I have on tap a Difflam spray just in case. The high-pitched voice will sound Disney-like. Oh, it will. It'll be great fun. There you see. Kim says she can do me at 1.75. It is doable. It's doable. You might need therapy afterwards, but it is doable. Right, okay then. We are going to head off. Busy, busy, busy.
And get something to eat.
But it has been a complete blast, as usual. Glad you've all enjoyed it and found it useful, particularly Carol with her pattern. She can now pattern herself to glory. I can't wait to see what you do with it, Carol. That would be amazing. So for the moment, I'm going to say a good night from me.
And good night from me.
And we will both see you next time. Stay safe, guys.